Never before have we had greater need to face a complex, rapidly changing world. Think of it a moment.
It is a world in which supersonic speeds are commonplace. It is a world that has seen the coming of the atomic bomb. It has seen the rise of the total state, the dictator, and the mass man. It is a world of new sensations, new excitements, new distractions.
So much to be learned by so many in so little time.
And I suppose you're here with no agenda, as per usual?
On the contrary, I'm here for comics.
How's your comic book collection, Brody?
Oh, it's going good, but I've been...
Really good, but it was because it was initially exclusive to the Switch, it felt like a huge step backwards, even though gameplay wise it was still really, really, really good. But like visually going from something that was clearly current gen to then relegating something strictly to the Switch, it was like, well, shucks.
Like, oh, okay, maybe it's a little more comfortable to play, but still a little awkward here.
Yeah, it was still fun. It was just kind of like, oh man, like it looked so good in World, and now it looks
Less
like a
so.
Switch game.
well, that's what I was saying, is like this one, I've been hearing people sort of like divided on it. I guess they made a lot of changes to the new engine or to the new system, and people don't like it. And I'm not even talking about the stupid outrage over, oh, you can wear whatever set of armor you want anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard there's like, they've cut some things out. I don't know anything. Do you know anything about that? Does that worry you?
I have been so busy that I didn't even get a chance to try the beta. So I actually can't comment on anything that wasn't a trailer.
I'm actually kind of jealous of that, because how often do we get to do that these days, right? Even for something bad.
Not often.
We rarely get to go into something super blind. So I'm super jealous of that, that you'll have that tomorrow with Monster Hunter. I'm super jealous that you got all this time to play Ninja Gaiden. I know you've been playing it over the weekend still, even when
all this time. It was I beat it in like 9.5 hours over the course of 2 days on Mentor, which is the highest starting difficulty.
Did
and
you
then
start it
like
on Mentor, or did you like man, that's what I'm
Yes.
talking about. See, those skills don't go away.
They didn't. They didn't. I was like, I still got it. Without too much difficulty. But then I went and started doing like the challenges and everything like that to start unlocking all the costumes. And then I think because I beat it, I haven't even tried starting up a new like story game. But now I think the next thing I got to do is play through on Master.
Yeah, well, that's
which
what I was
is
gonna ask then, because that's
like
how you
the
get...
mode that they added afterwards.
Yep,
which is how you get Fiend Ryu.
That's what Fiend Ryu and Fiend Rachel. Like, so that's how you get both of them.
No, actually, no. You get Rachel's Fiend outfit by getting Master Ninja rank on 10 of the Ninja Challenge.
That's right.
missions.
That's what it is. Yep.
I know that because that was the first thing I did after I beat it. I was like, all right, now I'm gonna go through these.
One of the best things to what we were just talking about like going in blind, this Ninja Gaiden remaster or 2 Black. Again, it was like that moment of being a kid again, because it kind of dropped out of nowhere. We didn't have time for everybody to make 700 rage videos and pick it apart or whatever. And then this is what really got me when it came out and everybody went, oh yeah, we've seen in the files and we've seen in streams that you can play as Rachel's Fiend outfit. And then everybody went, cool, how do I get that? But in like the first week, nobody knew. So I was legitimately
in like the first 2 weeks, like nobody had any information anywhere. Like IGN basically copy and pasted their walkthrough of the original release and like kind of spliced it with the Sigma version of it, right? And like it was actually mostly correct, but like for the unlocks, there was like for those first 2 weeks, there was nothing. No information whatsoever.
But I
had to find on it. It was cool because it was like, oh, so you gotta like actually figure this out.
And you're like talking to other fans, like, wait, did you do this? Okay, yeah, but I got 9 ninja, like Master Ninja ranks. Oh, maybe you need 10. Like, it was such an era by like long gone.
Yeah. And then it plays so well. It plays so well. The game is beautiful. I was genuinely shocked at how much of an upgrade it was from like the Sigma version, which was an upgrade from the original. And then they like did some upresing when they released the the Master Ninja Collection a year or so ago. Which I played. I played and it was fine.
I heard it was kind of bad. Or not bad per se, but not the best versions you could get. You know what I mean?
It was just kind of like, all right, well, like I've played these versions. This is fine. Like I wasn't like mad about it or anything, but it was just kind of like, all right, well, clearly this is just them. I feel like it was them testing the waters of like, hey, so how much interest is this going to put into the gaming community?
Do people still remember? Ninja Gaiden.
Are people still down with some Ninja Gaiden? Because obviously at that point they would have already have been working on Ninja Gaiden 2 Black and probably early stages of Ninja Gaiden 4.
Early pitches of like story, concept art.
So it was probably them trying to like slowly build up hype for it and energy. And I think it worked because I remember playing through that trilogy and being like, man, like that was fun, but I would love like a truly remastered version of 2 because it's the best one. And then like, give me a Ninja Gaiden 4. And lo and behold, they just out of nowhere. They just RKO it, right? They just dropped that. And it was like, what? Really? And it was like, it wasn't even like, hey, next week or next month. It was like, nope, Ninja Gaiden 2 Black today.
Like, at the end of this sentence, it is available. I kind of wonder, because obviously when they announced that, we don't know that they're going to end that trailer spot with, available now. So I wonder what's the like go signal or whatever for either the like storefront end or the developer end. Like, when do they make that live? Do you think there's somebody out there who was just, I don't have internet today. I'm on vacation. I'm with my, I'm in Greece or something. I don't know. I'm not paying attention. I'm going to log on to PSN and what is this? Ninja Gaiden 2?
My guess is what they do is they have, like well before the show, it's probably a conversation that happens a week or weeks in advance.
Oh, yeah. They're not doing it like 10 seconds
They have
before.
everything like set on a timer, and they're like, hey, because it's not like immediately after the show. It was like within like an hour or so after the entire thing ended.
Okay.
After the whole presentation ended, then it was like available. And so... I think they just set it on a timer.
That would bug me. I didn't realize that. That would bug me if it was like available like today, quote, at the end. Another quote, like, of the show altogether. Like, really? Like, I just want to play it. But, guys, you are not here for video games. Well, maybe you are here for video games, but you're mainly here for our beautiful faces. That's right. 2 weeks in a row, we are getting back on track with Foil Variant. As always, guys, we are happy to be here this Thursday night to talk comic books with you. My name is Spencer Bakuli. You know my good friend and this handsome gentleman over here, Andrew Rodriguez of the RIPPAVERSE. And we are, like I said, we're happy to be here. Somewhat of a slow week, but I think we have some things to talk about.
In terms of quantity, yes, but there was some. So today was like, or today's show, but this week was a really black and white week. It was a hot or cold week. It was like, at least from what I managed to get through. Granted, I still have 2 books left. I didn't have time to get to Justice League or Superman, unfortunately.
Oh, would you like the summary?
Sure. Nothing happens.
Here it is. Literally nothing happens. Nothing.
God.
There. I will, of course, in
Justice League or in both?
In both.
Really? Because I've actually been enjoying Superman, or at the very least, I've been intrigued and like, okay, so like, where are they going with it? So I'm still not sure where they're going with it. Whereas Justice League Unlimited right now, it's just like not going anywhere, and so I'm not even curious where it's going.
So it's with Superman, I will give you this. I've also been following it. I've been a really big fan of it. I really, even though we both had that one weird reaction in issue 1 when we were like, skinny old Doomsday?
Right?
Like, what the hell?
What are we doing here?
But it worked. It worked the way they developed it with like the Doomsday Army and all that stuff. And this issue is sort of, I don't want to say it's an exposition issue, but it's sort of like the move the plot along issue.
We already had an exposition heavy issue this week.
Oh my
freaking
God.
exposition the comic book. We'll get to Flash.
And none of it makes sense.
None of it it's like exposition while on acid is what it was.
So check this out. And then with Justice League Unlimited, literally the same thing we have been saying every week. Really good shots from Dan Mora women. I mean, it's Dan Mora. What are you going to do? And nothing else. The exact same things that have happened in this book, like opens with the Justice League deploying. They try to stop a crisis that's caused by that inferno, whatever. They do. And then it ends with like, ooh, remember, Airwave's a bad guy. All right.
And I don't care.
I don't. There was one interesting bit. I won't tell you it because you'll read it. It's slightly interesting, but then it was like you didn't do anything with it. I don't even know if we'll follow up on it. This book is super disappointing. Like
it's extremely disappointing, considering the potential quality of talent when it comes to the creative team for it. So that's why I like pushed it to the back of my stack for this week. I was like, okay, I got to hit Absolute Wonder Woman. I got to hit Flash because I'm going to want to shoot myself in the face, and we're going to talk about it. And then what was it? X-Men. Was it 11 or 12 this week?
The return of MidKay. Yeah, 11.
Yeah, the return of MidKay, and boy, did I call that one.
You called it so hard.
I called it from a mile off, and I guarantee we're probably not done with it either. And then we had Ultimate Spider-Man, which is just incredible. It was so good. It was better than last week's and the week prior's for me. It was just, oh my gosh. Like, we're not going to start with Ultimate Spider-Man.
No,
we'll end on that high note. But man, like, Richard Parker is such a good character.
I love Richard. Even though, what was this, like maybe 3 pages of him in this issue? It was immediately like, this kid, like I am rooting for this kid in everything. Like I officially don't want anything bad to happen to him.
There was quite the twist in this issue that I was not expecting.
We will get to it.
Hickman threw me for a loop.
One of those legitimate jaw drop moments. Like for, we'll get into it, but I will tell you, I will tell you, Andrew, just this preface and everybody out there, I had the exact same reaction Peter did. Like the entire full through, we'll get to it. It was nuts. But yeah, very, very hot and cold week. There were like, even in the books, because I had a couple extra books this week that you normally don't. I had Ultimate X-Men. I had Hell Hunters.
Is that still good?
It's still good.
You're still enjoying it?
I'm still enjoying it. I'm getting to the point though where,
like beyond just your girl Peach Momoko's art?
Of course, just beyond that. I'm still enjoying it, even though that is the big sell. Like, guys,
the reason he's buying the book.
It kind of is. It really is. Even before I was like, I don't care about the X-Men that much. She's doing the entire thing. I'm here. Side note, Limited Run Games. I know you saw this, Andrew, but Limited Run Games is doing a physical release of the new Contra game, and it makes me like, I feel like I'm being tempted 40 days in the desert with Satan, right? Because Limited Run Games, I do not buy from them. Ever since they did the thing with Kara, I legitimately do not give them business. I try to tell everybody not to give them business. And from the business practices they've done since, I think that's just a general good idea. They're kind of losing a lot of their quality in favor of making weird, like, random merch. Like, do you want some Dreamcast postcards? Isn't that so like, all right, sure, whatever.
Yeah, totally, bro.
Right? But then their release of Contra has a exclusive Peach Momoko cover, and I'm just like, why? Like, it's a video game and it's Peach and it's everything, but I won't do it. I respect A, my friend Kara too much, and B, the integrity of our cause and everything over here. So, but I see you bastards. I see you out there. But in terms of Ultimate X-Men, it's getting to that point. I still enjoy it, but the pacing is getting bad. It's getting a little too. It feels like a mix between Bendis and Tom King in pacing only, where like Tom King would have an issue where Batman walks into a room and the next 7 pages are him like walking, and you would follow like his boots and you would see whatever way he's going, and that's kind of what
that is a waste.
Yeah, and that's kind of what this feels like. There's a lot of like, right now they're dealing with a lot of sort of like there's a teenage suicide arc and thing in this storyline, and they're dealing with that. So there's a lot of like solemn moments, but they hang on it too much. Instead of just like maybe a splash page or a panel of somebody looking solemn, they look solemn, they look down at their hands, they look back up at the room, and it's like pretty art piece, but let's move along a little bit, especially compared to what we have in Spider-Man and Ultimates. Even though Ultimates is slowing down a little bit, it's still remember, all of these books are supposed to be happening in real time. We're at the end of, or next January, that's when we're supposed to have the Maker come back. And I don't know if you ever sat down. I know you won't, and I kind of don't really expect you to. And honestly, as somebody who's not a big Peach Momoko fan, I kind of would say I don't think this would hook you in. But if you ever sat down and read it,
She's drawn a lot more Emma Frost, I would.
Oh, she always does.
Because I like the pieces on her Instagram. Of that.
Her art style is always great, but I know we've talked about her, like this particular art style where she leans a little more into her chibi like anime look. You're not jazzed on that, and that's completely fine. And I totally get that,
pretty.
And I see it. Right,
it's pretty, but it's not something I want for an X-Men comic book.
Exactly, and I totally completely get that. But if you ever were to sit down and read it, you would probably come away going, "Yeah, can we get something? Can I have anything else? Like, let's go, anything." And you'd also go, how are we supposed, like, how much time has passed? It really only feels like a month maybe. But again, we're supposed to be a year and a half into the new Ultimate timeline. Yeah. So
I'd buy a signed print of one of her Emma pieces.
Oh,
I would do that.
Absolutely. I am constantly on the lookout for, like, I'm going to, a good cover or a good print from her. Anything Emma, I'm always like, it's going straight to you immediately. Let's see. There was one. Oh, okay. Let's see. Before. All right. How do we want to do this? I wanted to bring up a scene from a book that you're not reading, and just because I liked it. But I know that the second we start getting into the actual books, we're just going to start rolling into our conversations, because that's how you and I roll. So before we get into any of that, let us say hello to everybody who's here, because we've actually got a lot of you talking. You're all chatting around tonight. So let's start off with me. Yeah, guys, in case you saw that we were live for about an hour or two before the show, I was testing some things out. You might notice that things run a little smoother here now. Things, the chat boxes don't get cut off. I was just doing some improvements like that, so that's why we were live. But yeah, aside from that, everything's going to run smoother. And who can attest to that but Zero, saying, Zero Dozer says, Wolf's voice is good, mine was low. Yeah, my microphone did that thing again, even though I looked at it before we got on. Took it back as soon as I hit intro. Whatever. We fixed it. We're here. We are moving. And what's going on, Zero? We've got Matt with a wave. What is going on? Always a pleasure, Matt. We have Timon. Yeah, my mic was low. Everybody was wondering if I was going to look at the chat. And they say they monitor it just for a bright neon light. There is an option in the program we use for our chats here to have a ding or like a sound go off when a chat comes in, and I put it on once. The problem is it doesn't do it's not like it doesn't wait for the sound to end. It'll just so like if people are rapid chatting, and
it's gosh, like, that would make me want to shoot myself in the face.
Exactly. So I do try to pay attention to you guys as well. I just do not. I'm not subjecting myself to going straight into the loony bin immediately from that sound.
Oh, heck no.
We have Punk in the house. What's going on, Punk? Punk says, hey, Rogue the Savage Land #2 with the regular cover along with the J. Scott Campbell variant was the only comic that I bought yesterday. Makes sense. Again,
I picked up the J. Scott Campbell variant. I still haven't read issue 1, but I have it.
They're fun. Again, it's one of those, like, I read issue 1. I haven't read 2 this week. It's one of those series where you're going in it because it's going to, how do I put this? The writing and the storytelling itself is what you're going for. The story, you already know what happens, right? Like, she went to the Savage Land. It's been years. So it's not like they're going to do any big revelations, but you're going in, and it's like a solid, fun adventure where everybody's like in character. You got Magneto, you got Kazar. It's pretty fun. I'm enjoying it, at least. And yeah, the covers just seal the deal.
Oh, the covers are great. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm still so surprised because he's doing Magic as like the standard covers and then doing all 5 of Rogue. And I feel like he doesn't do runs like that very often anymore.
He really doesn't.
He does like 1 or 2, but
yeah, he really doesn't. Like if it's, you know, he'll do maybe a super important issue for Amazing Spider-Man, or he hasn't done an Ultimate Spider-Man cover in a while.
He did the first issue, right?
He did issue 1, and then he did, I forget, maybe it was issue 4 that it was somewhere before issue 10 where he did the was it 3 cover set that were all homages
I
to
remember
his
that.
older
Yeah,
covers
that
Amazing
that's
Spider-Man,
right.
and I got all of those. Like I've got all of his Ultimate Spider-Man covers so far, but I'm just kind of shocked that he hasn't done more.
You know what? I think there's something very odd just going on with Ultimate Spider-Man's cover talent in general, because you know, we had in the beginning, we had like Elizabeth Torque, right? We had Mark Bagley did that connecting set, which didn't look great, but you still got Mark Bagley to do a set of covers. There was a couple issues ago, you had that Ryan Gonzalez cover. She's the one that I always share, who's like very Prismacolor, but her cover was the one where they're like on the family picnic and MJ's got like the big hat. Very cute. All these good artists. And then I look at like, what are we doing for your 1 year in issues, or what are we doing for your issues going forward? And they're all really boring. Yeah. Like it's just Spidey sitting on a ledge, which is like, okay.
Yeah, there was a decent variant this week, for this week's issue. I forget who the artist was, but Peter was bringing flowers to MJ. I think it was him bringing flowers to MJ. And she and the kids were in the window. Oh, don't you even dare. And like the art was fine, but I was just kind of like, I'm not paying $15 for that.
No, right?
like that's cool. Like if this was just cover price, or even say, I don't know, $7.99. Yeah, right. Sure, why not? But $15? No, I'm not willing to pay that kind of markup for it.
No way. Absolutely no way.
I'll save that $15 because and I knew this would inevitably happen, because remember that what was it? Anniversary issue of the Sonic the Hedgehog comic.
Yeah.
That I showed you the one specific cover that was spot foil and done by what's his name? It was a dude that you actually know.
Yeah, by Tyson Hess.
Yes, Tyson Hess, yeah. And my shop had been for like a month or two, like having it listed as like $125. Right. And I'm kind of like, I'm not willing. Even, like that's a beautiful cover, man. But I'm not doing that. But it just dropped down to 100 now. And so my hope is that it drops down again. So if it drops somewhere in that like 50 to 75 range, 50 for sure.
50 for sure. 75 is...
I would consider it at 75. 50, I'm snatching it up without...
Zero question. No, I'm super stoked for you, because very rarely does that happen. Does a book, especially like a nice cover or a limited cover like that, drop in value? I mean, we laughed about this the other week. The J. Scott Campbell cover of Witchblade, the mascot cover for our show. I still don't have it yet because I've just had too many bills out with Christmas and everything. So I'm just like looking at it, waiting for it. The other day, I messaged Andrew and I was like, look, it's going down in price. We're getting there. Literally a discount of like 7%. It was like a dollar and like a dime off. And I was like, we're getting there. Yeah. But no, $50 for that would be a nice snag. I wish they would. How does your shop keep those issues? Do they not slab them, but like the hard shell plastic cases?
They've got that one, I believe, in a hard shell plastic case, similar to this one, and it's in the glass case right up at the register.
I like it when it's at the register. I like it less when it's on the wall, even though it looks pretty to like look up at the wall and see all these issues. I can't see them. I don't know what I'm looking at.
They put them on the wall, like with all the new releases, if it's I think like $30 or less.
Oh, no. Oh, hold on. Not like the buy
You mean
wall?
like the wall behind them?
Yeah, like up near the ceiling or whatever. Where you have to look up there, Spawn #1 or something. Like that's what I'm talking about. I know what you mean. Yeah, because at my shop we have the regular rack, and then the less than 30 variants have their own rack, and it's odd.
My shop in Austin did that.
Oh, really? This is the first time I've ever seen it. Normally, every place I know that sells variants for like a higher markup, they're always behind the cases or on the walls. This is new for me.
Okay.
But let's see. Yes, Clone Geek, we agree. USM was damn good. We cannot wait to get to it. It's like we're gonna again, guys.
The business.
As we mention every show when it happens, there's not been a week since we started foil variant where we haven't gone. Spider-Man's got to go in. Like, if Ultimate Spider-Man comes out, it's almost automatically issue of the week, and it's almost automatically thumbnail.
In the
like
thumbnail. Yeah.
I make a couple every week, and I let Andrew choose them, and I made a couple this week, and I was like, I know what you're gonna pick, but I still did it just because
it was an Ultimate Spider-Man week. I couldn't not pick it.
Right, exactly. Let's see. Clone Geek also says Superman is solid. I'm liking the Superman run. House of Brainiac was great. Let's see. House of you haven't. I don't think you've read House of Brainiac. It's
nope. I jumped in with this all in run. I hadn't read Superman since DC was still in the Rebirth era.
No,
I take that back. You know what? I have
Superman Red, White, and Blue or whatever, where they put him in the prison camp.
First arc.
Oh, ouch.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that'll be worth something someday to somebody who is a really big Bendis fan. I really don't know.
Yeah, like his first arc was just not much different from like his what was it, Man of Steel short mini. It was just kind of like, okay, this is fine.
It's just like, okay,
it's nothing amazing.
Exactly.
It was kind of anticlimactic. Nothing incredible happens. Nothing terrible happens. It was like after the first arc where all of the stupid crap they did that just kind of destroyed the Superman family started happening.
I forget. Did he bring Naomi into Superman when he was on it?
I don't think so, but if he did, it would have been after that first arc.
Yeah, because
I don't remember that.
I remember. I will never like Naomi. Okay, fine. I don't really like her character, but I don't like a lot of characters. Whatever. Go make her. Go try and sell her. Don't blame me if she doesn't sell. But then when they put her on the Justice League, I was
like, you are line skipping right now, child.
And it was a crazy move because this wasn't even one of those interim Justice Leagues, you know, where it's like maybe Batman's there and then you've got Vixen and Hawk.
We've got to fill some slots.
Yeah, it wasn't even that. This was like we're going back to the core 7 or whatever, and Naomi is here, and we have Black Adam, and it was just like I don't even care anymore. This is so stupid. Superman should know better than to like bring a child onto the Justice League. The Avengers do that all the time. They're like, no kids. That's the rule. Yeah. Get away from us. And
there's a reason why you have the Teen Titans or Young Justice.
Put her over there.
She could have been fine on Young Justice.
But no, she couldn't have because that was the book you needed to tear apart all those other characters. To run over Bart, to run over Connor. No time for Naomi. But yeah, this House of Brainiac, it was okay. I will admit, I really liked the reveal synergy type of thing where for like 2 years before that, or like 3 years before that, they were teasing the Council of Light and Amanda Waller was working for them. And it turned out that it was multiverse Brainiacs. And if you guys remember, that was originally from Young Justice, and we never really found out who they were. But I like that kind of twist.
That book got canceled.
Well, I meant the TV show.
Oh, you're talking about the TV show. Okay.
Yeah. Nobody talks about it. Is that the issue you have the meme cover, right, of Superboy?
Yeah, I've got that signed.
Yeah. Couldn't remember if that was like Superman, Superboy, or if that was Teen Titans.
Yeah,
like that's the only
that cover was like the best thing to come out of that series.
And it's Jorge. Like it's just fantastic. Okay. I don't even remember what we were talking about, but now that I said Batman and Jorge, like, guys, they announced, what was it, like last week or something, that like Jorge Jimenez and Chip Zdarsky is now off of Batman. His run ended. Nothing, he didn't get fired or anything, just came to an end. They're moving on. I forget who the new writer is going to be, but they advertised it. They're like, new Batman volume coming, March, with Jorge Jimenez on art. And both of us both me and Andrew, independently, without even talking to each other, the first things we said, like, I tweeted it, and he said it in the Discord.
For what, like an issue, maybe two?
Exactly. We're like, is that even a sell anymore? I can't trust them. I just, it's so weird. Maybe it's just like with Jorge specifically, but I see his name now, and I'm like, I'm not going to get attached to you.
Yeah, there's been a rise in shuffling artists around and changing artists mid-run on books. Like, that was something that used to happen pretty frequently, but then they got away from it, which was nice.
Yeah.
And then now they're back to doing it. So, like, we've had, gosh, how many issues did Chichetto not do on Ultimate Spider-Man?
I think 2. If that,
Yeah.
I know there's
So they had that, like,
there's the dinner
break
issue.
Yeah.
And then I think maybe there's one other issue somewhere, but I actually don't know. Yeah. But yeah,
And then we had multiple breaks on the different X-Men books. So, like, Stegman's not on the book anymore.
But
Like,
at least they
and he was part of the selling point, though. It's the thing.
was.
Like, if you're going to sell a creative team for a run, you need to keep that creative team for that run.
I 100% agree.
Because if you are selling me on X-Men by Jed McKay and Ryan Stegman, I'm going to buy that because it has Ryan Stegman.
Right.
Right. Not for MidKay, but I'm going to buy that book with the expectation that I'm going to be seeing some really cool Stegman art, right? Same thing with Jorge Jimenez on Batman, or Marco Cheto on Ultimate Spider-Man,
on
right?
Spidey.
Or I always blank on the artist's name for Uncanny.
Oh, David Marquez.
Yeah, right. And when
that last issue, we needed him.
well, we needed him on all the issues that he hasn't been on, which has been like 3 or 4. Which is unfortunate because, like, if you're going to bill a project, you're going to bill this book on a specific creative team, you have to operate under the understanding that that is the creative team that people who are buying that book are expecting.
I think, and that's the problem too, because they set that expectation, right? When they said, "Here's from the
especially
ashes,"
for a visual medium.
Oh yeah, even more
Like,
so. I kind of didn't even think about that.
I'm an art guy when it comes to comics. Like, I want a good story, but I will take a good story with amazing art over, like, an amazing story with crap art. Or at the very least, I might only read that book once.
I will read it once for context to, like, whatever's going on, and then we're out of here. Bad art will put me off of a book entirely, which, again, this is what's crazy. My go-to reference for this, Andrew, was, do you guys remember that issue of Amazing Spider-Man where he was doing the Judgment stuff? Mm-hmm. And that issue looks really terrible. But I feel like I can't really point to that right now because that was Nick Dragotta, and he got better, and he's doing some of the best art now. So I'm like, that's a little unfair to.
It's very stylized, but it looks great in Absolute Batman. Absolute Batman is one of DC's best-looking books.
At least not everybody's faces are, like, stretchy and melting. That's what I felt.
And the eyes, like, super far apart. Like, what is happening?
I can do that, by the way, guys.
Well, of course you can. You're part Asian.
You have a pass. I'll give you a pass. But let's see. Clone Geek also says they really shouldn't have put Si Spurrier on Flash. I don't think that was the problem. I think they let him stay too long. Like,
I think he ran out of good ideas. Is what it is, because he's actually a good writer.
He is. You and I were talking to our mutual on Twitter, Ella, about this, where he's trying to, like, add something new to the mythos, but we've already kind of gone to the upper level of what the Speed Force is and what that means for everybody. So now
there's only a certain point that you can go to before it just becomes retarded.
Right. And that's exactly kind of where we're at, as we will get into when we get to this issue, because it's such a whirlwind. Like, just, we'll get to it. Subhuman, what's going on, buddy? Subhuman says the only new title I read from DC is Batman.
Oh, he froze.
Oh no, I froze.
Did we lose him? Oh wow, we lost him entirely.
No.
Or did we lose me?
Probably.
That's also possible because that's happened before.
That's weird.
Chat, let me know. Is it me that's gone or is it Mav that's gone? I know we have like a 20-second delay on our stream. It's a super long delay. So we will find out here momentarily.
Bum, bum, ba-da, ba-da, bum, bum, bum. Oh, I think I'm back. Am I back? Am I back? Am I back?
You're back.
All right,
Okay.
yeah. Literally no idea what happened with that, guys. I just sent you a message on Discord. YouTube farted on us. Everything is green over here. Everything is fine on our end. Literally not even a dropped frame. And out of nowhere, we just cut. So
good job, YouTube. 10 out of 10. No
thanks,
notes.
YouTube. Everything's going great.
Yeah, because on my end over here, like in the VOD, like or in VDO, like
yeah.
You disappeared, and there have been times where like that's happened, but it was because VDO was kicking me out.
Right. So no, I heard you the entire time. You're like, is it me? Is it him? Is it he? Like, no idea.
No, just
maybe
tech being retarded.
maybe we'll start making like no prizes, and whoever in the chat can like let us know first who is the one that cut. We'll be like, here's a no prize, and I have no idea what it'll be. But in terms of Dark Patterns, I have not read it. I don't know if you've read it. I kind of am very burnt out on Batman minis. I feel like we've kind of treaded a lot of those grounds already. I have heard good things about Dark Patterns.
I'm burned out on just like new Batman in general right now. Like this most recent arc, this new run in All In, just kind of like really bummed me out with how underwhelming it was. And then, like, I don't know, doing a follow-up to Hush, not interested. They were doing a freaking follow-up to Long Halloween, not interested.
Not interested.
You know, like, honestly, the only Batman book I'm genuinely enjoying right now is the freaking Full Moon.
Full Moon. I
mini.
knew you were going to say that.
And that one has, like, what, a book every other month?
I was going to say, like, when was the last time we even read an issue of that? Like,
yeah,
it's been a while.
The release schedule for that is, like, super slow, but the story is incredibly interesting, even though, and here's another perfect example, what I was just talking about.
Yes, it is.
I do not like the art at all.
The art
It bothers me. Everyone, and I mean everyone, just looks ugly and weird. And if you want to do that stylized stuff with the beast forms, that makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah,
cool. You're going for a darker, super gritty aesthetic. All right, I'm all here for it. I can justify that in the context of the type of story that's being told here. But when you make all of the humans just look super ugly, like all of them.
Like, and it's not even like a sort
Bruce
of
Wayne should be an
choice.
Attractive guy. Zatanna should be hot as hell. Even Constantine should be an attractive guy as well. Because otherwise, he's not going to get away with how much of a snarky asshole he is to women if he's not a good-looking dude as well.
Have the history with women that he has if he's going to, look like... In this book, guys, he straight up looks like... like a scarecrow drug addict. Like, his hair is falling out. He looks stereotypically British. It's bad. But yeah, like you said.
But the story is like really interesting.
We are gripped by it every single time we like talk about it.
Yeah, and the covers have been pretty cool so far.
See, guys, like this book is very, very ugly. Like here's your Bruce, here's your John. Why does John look like an alien over there? Right? Like
right? Why does John have freaking what's his name's over at Gotham Police Department's hairline?
Harvey Bullock, man. There you go.
Yeah, like what the hell are we doing here?
And then like I still can't get over in the first issue or so when they like flash back or they have the scene where Bruce is supposed to be meeting Zatanna for dinner or like drinks or something.
Oh,
and he's late or whatever. But the way they're like meeting at the super swanky hotel, and Zatanna is dressed in like a tube top with no shoes on and fishnets, and I'm just like, what the hell? Like, huh? Zatanna's not, the weird. He's not like Data from or Data or whatever from Star Trek, right? She's not learning how the world works. She's just She's a normal human being. She has a stage show for goodness sakes.
Yeah. She knows how to like dress appropriately for the occasion.
Right.
Like, don't get me wrong, Zatanna in fishnets is great, but she's an intelligent human being and she knows that there is a time and a place for that. And so if she's meeting Bruce Wayne for dinner at a swanky hotel, she's going to dress a little more appropriately. right? Maybe she'll have on a shorter dress or something like that, but then like leggings instead of fishnets, or like nothing in terms of like leggings or whatever at all there, because fishnets automatically, it's funny, bare legs is like they feel more appropriate than fishnets, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Depending on the occasion, like fishnets add a different like, you know, energy to the outfit.
Yeah.
And yeah, she just looks like her face looks frumpy, her shoulders are thick, and this isn't like somebody is deliberately, I don't feel like this is somebody deliberately trying to make people ugly, like say we would accuse a lot of modern gaming, you know, devs of, right? This is a matter of like, this is just this artist's style, and that's okay, but that doesn't work here.
It's not working
like,
for
this is the
sequential
kind of style.
comic book. Yeah.
Well, not even necessarily not with sequential comics. I think it has its place, and it's not within a Batman story. Like
it's in a Swamp Thing, right?
I would, you know, this could work. Yeah, Swamp Thing, or I don't know, like Walking Dead, or you know, something that's like super dark, gritty, but it's more indie. You're not handling these characters that are kind of considered our modern myths, right? Right? They're a pantheon of heroes and characters, and so you know the whole "Gods Among Us" phrase when it comes to the DC pantheon, especially, is, you know, that speaks to their aesthetics as well, not just their powers, not just their abilities. So they're all supposed to be exceptionally aspirational and inspirational in how they look.
Well, like that's why I think of a Alex Ross Justice League DC like group scene, right? Think of Kingdom Come. When you see all of those guys show up, you get that sense of awe, like you're thinking
God. Like Greek gods chiseled into ivory,
right,
or marble, right?
But
like
then you see an Alex Ross Marvel shot, and everybody looks a little more creepy. They've got more full face masks. It's more of a sense of like they're here and they're helping, but could they maybe? Or did they do this? I have no idea.
Yeah.
And it's such. You are completely right in that read of their appearances.
Yeah, it's an incredibly important look. Aesthetics. This is why and we'll get to the comics here in a second, but like, this is why when people try, you know, getting gotchas over comic book and gaming fans, when we make remarks about like, why did you do this to the character visually? The visual is part of the character. That's how they were designed. 100%. They were designed that way for a reason. Zatanna is supposed to be sexy. Black Widow is supposed to be sexy. You know, Bruce Wayne is supposed to be an incredibly attractive male who has like peak male human physical form, right? Like Peter Parker isn't supposed to be necessarily Brad Pitt, but he's also not ugly either. Right. Like he's supposed to be, it's one of those things that I always use as a pushback when people give me grief for liking Andrew Garfield as my favorite live action Spider-Man. There's like, he's too attractive. I'm like, when was Peter Parker ugly? Like,
no, that is not a valid argument by like any means, man.
His first appearance, like he looks nerdy, but you know what? Everybody kind of looked a little dopey back then.
And
you know, also, in terms of the art style.
And that was sort of the point that they were trying to sell about Peter, right? Is that he's a Poindexter. He's a big old dork. That's why in that first issue, right? Who are we going to go? Flash is like, are we going to go hang out with people? And like Liz is like, should we invite Peter? And he goes, nah, that weird bookworm. Ha 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 ha. Right? Like the point of that was to other Peter. I would always push back against that and say, even sticking into the realm of that original era Lee Ditko run, look at what happens like the second Pete starts growing up around like issue 50, 60, right? He starts getting that
all of a sudden
those like sideburn, the longer hair look, and he
grows out the hair a little bit, he styles it a little bit differently. And like those same people, I don't even have to go that far back, you know, to tell people. All I have to do, and usually this is where people like they don't want to shut up, but they have to. It's like, you're a fan of the 90s animated Spider-Man show. I'm not trying to hear that. Because 90s animated Spider-Man, he looked like the freaking, he looks like you would expect Flash Gordon to look.
He is a chiseled like Adonis of a man. Yeah.
Dude, he is like super Chad, shredded. Like he's wearing the popped collar jacket.
Well, I was about to say, he is pulling off for 4 seasons a striped collared short sleeve shirt. You do not mess with that man. A man who can do that, and he tucks it in.
Yeah, It's absolutely ridiculous. Visuals are an important facet of a character, every bit as much as their characterization.
And that's what really bugs me is I think you can do a lot of interesting stories if you acknowledge that dynamic, right? Marvel does it a little bit more with, especially with their mutants, kind of like Glob Herman, right? He's a big old cell, like a big pink cell with weird bones in him. He's not human. He's very scary. I think they've told a lot of good stories about how does a mutant, fit into society, especially when they're not like that beautiful god. But we
don't even have to go as obscure as him. We can just utilize Kurt.
You could use Kurt. You could use Beast,
who's a beloved character. Yeah, Beast too.
They're all right there, and but you can't get those really cool, deep explorations without going, yeah, this is how the world is, right? If you're going, no, we're all equal. We all look the same. Everybody is beautiful. Here's a story about a guy who feels ugly. What? But you just said that everybody is on, they're all considered the same. So what are we doing here? How does that story come about? No, I love this read everything you just said there. I love it. Everybody in the chat is freaking out about this issue of Zatanna.
She looked so bad.
Horrible. She has
I'm not a knee jerk. Oh, you made this female character look mannish all of a sudden. Things like that. Like all the conversation around Witcher 4 and series
which
design,
made me laugh so hard because you and I knew that. We called that. We're like, it is lighting. It is she is in motion.
It's also Unreal Engine 5, which is significantly more detailed and powerful than Unreal Engine 4.
And people don't know how to use that yet. So, there's going to be some weirdness in any Unreal 5 thing we get from the next 2 years.
Not every single... And look, First Descendant and Stellar Blade are my kind of thing, my kind of game. I like my female characters looking like that. However, I don't need, and I certainly don't expect, every single game in the world to have female characters that look like that. That's unrealistic, and it's not appropriate. And I don't mean not appropriate as, that's inappropriate. No, I mean not appropriate as it doesn't work. It doesn't fit.
Yeah.
Right?
No. It's all about doing what's right for the story and the character. And this sounds very corny and cliche, but you know this as a writer, and our other creatives out there in the chat will know this, but you got to listen to what the story is telling you, right? As you write it, you'll see, oh, I've been writing this character like this. This is who she is. Oh, I've been setting this up. I didn't know that. Let me address that. You have to, but then, what we see is people go in and go, I need to make this about everybody is beautiful, body positivity, and that's the only thing they care about. So then characters start acting out of character. Characters start doing things they normally wouldn't. Basically, look at the entire bibliography of Tom King, which I had to go through. I did that yesterday because, guys, the Lantern show that's coming out is apparently not based on any comic run at all, but it's instead quoting James Gunn, Tom King doing a version of Lanterns like he did with Mr. Miracle, like he did with Woman of Tomorrow. Specifically, that's what he said, Andrew, and what he did with what was it? There was another series he mentioned. I don't really care, but I'm like, that is the worst news I could have ever. I already knew he was attached, but I kind of was hoping, Gunn's also attached, so maybe Gunn's gonna do, Amy over here, and maybe he'll lean on Tom because he, give me some flowery, deep writing or whatever, right? But no, he's in charge. So I had to go through. I wrote an article about that, and then I had
man.
I had to be I know some people who read this won't know who Tom King is. Let me give the worst examples of his work. So I pulled out Heroes in Crisis.
You already mentioned.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Pulled that out.
Why did you say that name?
Why did you say that name? Right, exactly. And then I pulled out Batman Catwoman when they break up after 4 years. So absolutely stupid. Then I also pulled out, nobody read this, and it surprises me because it is probably the most offensive thing I've ever read from any comic book writer, right? And
more than Heroes in Crisis?
Even more than that. This, so...
That's going to be a hard sell, man.
I know. And let's see. I don't have the books, obviously, but I'll just talk about it. But Human Target, very obscure sort of character, right? He was an 80s, 90s sort of... his whole gimmick is that he he's a hitman, like a bodyguard. He gets hired by people, and he puts himself in their spot and makes himself the human target. And then when, an attempt happens on him, he fights back. So, for example, real life, regardless of however you feel about these people, if Donald Trump was like, hey, human target, I think somebody in Saudi Arabia is going to get me at this next speaking event. Human target would go, okay, puts on this really elaborate disguise, goes out and acts as Trump. The second a bullet whizzes by him, it's on, it's time to go. And that's kind of the hero thing he would do. In this series, Tom King does his thing where he revamps, if you will, a character, and he turns human target from sort of a very flashy action hero premise to more of a hard-boiled detective who's going, I forget the exact mystery he's investigating, but he ends up on the trail of something that involves the Justice League, not Unlimited, International. So Booster Gold, Blue Beetle, Ice Fire, all that stuff. And that team is historically known for being more of the more lighthearted and more like family, like Justice League team, right? Like, you got Booster, you got Beetle, they're making jokes.
Yeah.
Even after they break up as a team, those guys are always together. Like, they found a core community. There's a love, a happiness that flows from them, even in their saddest times, like when Ted got his brains blown out during Infinite Crisis. In this book, everybody is turned into a literal fucking psychopath. And I have to use that F-bomb because, like, here's the example I always use. It's 12 issues long. He basically dismantles every Justice League International member. But in the first couple issues, so Guy Gardner and Ice, Tora, they dated for a little while they were on the league, on and off throughout the years. In this book, Tom King depicts them as, like, they're broken up, but Guy Gardner is your very stereotypical 80s, like, jock villain, like, sup babe, like, you're still mine, right? Like,
and like creepy ex-boyfriend type of
exactly.
thing.
Like, he's always
I'm remembering the premise and some of the panels that I saw.
Yes, because then what happens is he spends a couple issues like stalking them, wherever they Ice starts working with Human Target. He gets jealous, starts following them, does things like, oh, hey, what's up, Human Target? Looks like your car is broken. Hey, babe, you want to ride? And it's clear that he, like, dropped something on it or whatever. And then it gets to a point where they're investigating this mystery. Ice and Human Target go to, like, a safe house, and Guy Gardner just surprises them, ambushes them, and is like, that's it, babe. Like, you're coming home with me. Like, this is over. And starts, like, trying to hit her and trying to, ring her over to him. And when Human Target steps up, he's basically like, get off. Like, this is my property. You have nothing to do in this, like, Human Target. So Ice freezes Guy Gardner. Human Target punches his head off. Ice walks over to the body, pushes it over. It shatters on the ground. And as it starts to melt into, like, bloody water, her and Human Target have sex next to the body. Like, it is I am not kidding. I
hate Guy Gardner, but that's like a few bridges too far.
Like, it is exactly right. Like, we're even as a fan of Guy, I'd be up for a good dismantling takedown of him whenever, if he's written like he's written, like, as he should be. That's not Guy Gardner. Guy Gardner's not weird, abusive ex-boyfriend. He's hot-headed and a little jockey.
He's hot-headed and he's a jerk.
Right, but he still loves his friends. Like, he loves the core.
He'll still fight for the people in his life.
There's a reason the Ring chose him. So it's just like, so Tom King's up on that, and I don't even know how we got here or where we went through this, but it's going to be bad, and I'm definitely not excited. Let's see.
Well, I think we should kick off the book talk with an actual good book. Since we've been talking DC, let's jump into Wonder Woman.
Let's absolutely do that. First, sorry, like, I know there's a lot of you guys chatting. We've kind of lagged a little bit, so we're going to move on. But shout out to, we've got Trace in the house as well. Let me guess, we're going to see a deconstruction of the lanterns. Of course we are, which makes me really
That's all
bummed.
He knows how to do, and he doesn't even know how to do it well.
We're going to get the most on-the-nose, like, racism in Middle America, like, deconstruction about Hal and John. It's going to be embarrassing. Like, it's going to be so bad. But yes, I agree with you, Andrew. Let's finally get into comic book talk. Before we jump into Absolute Wonder Woman, which was absolutely great, I do want to share that one moment with you because it's a fun little moment. I've been giggling about it ever since I read it, I actually didn't sleep last night. I couldn't sleep. Like I laid down at normal, woke up like an hour later, tried restlessly to get back to sleep, couldn't happen. So I was up at like 4:35 going through my stack. So Andrew, to that point, I was reading these books and going like, I need to talk to him, but it is literally 12 hours till it's time for us to talk about this. I'm going to lose my mind. But as you guys know, I don't remember if I brought this series up here or if I brought it up over on my own show.
You did mention it. You did mention it like a couple of weeks ago, I think.
Yeah, so still just a really fun series, kind of like what I was talking about with Rogue Savage Land. World War II story about, Peggy Carter, Nick Fury, Bucky, the Ghost Rider, a 1940s Doctor Strange fighting Nazi vampires back on the front. It's pretty straightforward, but still pretty entertaining. But if you guys remember, I showed off this cover last time and said, hey, it looks like we might be getting Bucky, maybe Cap, I don't know. Well, we do get Bucky in this issue, and this scene is just...
there is Cap.
So this entire bit is so good. So do we have a group shot of the team right now? We don't. We'll see him. But Peggy, the Sorcerer Supreme, Nick, and Ghost Rider arrive at this base, and they're like, we need to talk to the man in charge because we need Captain America's help. And so, yeah, Rogers is here. He's like, let's talk. Brings him to the general. The general basically goes like, I hear your story. I hear what's going on, but there is no way I can I can't lend you Captain America because I don't even know if what you're saying is true, right? Like vampires, magic. I'll give you a couple more weeks to look into it, but you can't have Cap. So while they're having this big fight, because the Ghost Rider is not of that rank, he's sort of walking around outside, and he sees a kid crying, and he goes, "What?" And the kid's crying. It's not fair, and it's Bucky, and he goes, "Hey kid, what's wrong?" And he says, "Dum Dum took my ears." So when I'm reading this, I first went, oh, probably like, there's that old phrase like box your ears, which means to like scold you or to chew you out.
Yeah. So
I was like, oh man, he probably got in trouble with Dum Dum. He took your what now? I was taking ears off Nazis I killed, and he took them. Said he'd tell Cap if he caught me doing it again. I killed those Nazis fair and square. Those ears are mine. And I'm just like, whoa. This is one of those moments where...
Savage,
and I don't...
Holy crap.
Like, this is like one of those things we don't really think about like wartime. Like, this happens. Like, this is what people did back in the trenches. And
there would be people that cut off ears or cut off fingers,
right,
things
exactly.
like that. Yeah.
Or even just like, oh, I cut off the barrel of their gun and that's my trophy or whatever.
Yeah. Or like the really disrespectful people would like take the dog tags.
The tags, I know, which is
and that's something that you leave for their own comrades.
You have to. Yeah. And so thinking about a kid being thrown in there, this would happen. And so it was just one of those moments of like, I guess horror of war, like reality hit. I'm like, oh yeah, that's crazy. But yes, very, very fun scene. I definitely recommend anybody who's looking for just like a good Saturday read or something, pick this up. When it's done, I think we have about 2 more issues. But like, for example, Bucky's like, let me come. And Fury's like, no, like absolutely not. And then Wolverine is like, nobody's going to miss him. They've got Captain America. And so he's like, okay, come along. And everybody's like, this is a bad idea, Nick. You're going to have blood on your hands. You're going to get a kid killed. But the entire time, like, Bucky is right on the front lines. He is ready to go. He is cracking. We even end on this amazing... So there's a sequence where earlier in the issue, Bucky is getting scared while they're walking through a forest. And Peggy Carter goes, if you're that scared, just sing a song. And he goes, I don't know any songs. And she's like, you don't know any music? And he's like, well, I know the marching, beat, like, what do you call it? Like the marching shanty? I don't know like the right term, but when
I don't know the military terminology, but I know what you're talking about.
I've been told, like that thing. He's like, that's all I really know. And so after that, they get ambushed. You kind of forget about it. And then Ghost Rider's tearing into action, and they're like, what are we doing? We need help. And Bucky says, hey, get over here. Jumps on the back of Ghost Rider's bike, starts singing those, like, military, like, marching songs. And so, like, you get this awesome bit right here where he's like, an airman's wings are made of lead, a sailor's soggy in the head, no bullet sponge marine for me. And then while he's just tearing ass with Ghost Rider, I'm Army airborne infantry. I don't know. There's just something.
Damn,
so
that's based as hell.
I know, right? I'm just like, this is
scrawny
awesome.
little Bucky over here is a Chad.
He is tearing through. He is proud to be Army. I'm just like, I'm enjoying this book a lot. Grab the trade. I might even just buy the trade for you when it comes out because I'm like, everybody needs to read this.
I might be sold just based on this this panel alone. So.
I now have I do that thing on my phone where because I have an iPhone, you can set it to like rotate your wallpapers like every time you open your phone or something. I have a bunch of comic pages, and this immediately entered the rotation at like 5 a.m. this morning. I was just like, yep, getting in there right freaking now. Tehillim says, what comic is this? This is called Hell Hunters. Brand new series, 5-issue long miniseries, not really connected to anything going on. You can jump right in, enjoy it for what it is. Thank you, Trace. That is what it is. They're called cadences or colloquially Jodies. Yes. Cadences is the word I was looking for. Bucky says that exact term at some point. But yeah, I knew there was a specific word. Trace, you are the man. But yes, let's get into a book we both read, a book that was really good, but I do have a question, and maybe you being the more discerning and smarter of the two of us will be able to help us out here, or help me out here. But yes, guys. To be. Well, you pull it off expertly. If you didn't say that, we could have kept this kayfabe up going forever, and nobody would have known we were doing kayfabe. But yes, guys, this is a surprise. I'm actually surprised by this, Andrew. This is actually the first ending, or how do I put this? Issue 5 of Absolute Wonder Woman. We are here at the end of the very first arc of this book. What I was trying to say is this is surprising to me because the other two books aren't even close to ending their first arcs. Like Batman that's going to go probably for like 20 issues for its first arc. But Superman, we're 3 or 4 in, and I don't think we're anywhere close to resolving that bit.
I have a feeling that Superman will wrap up its first arc with issue 6.
You think?
I think so. I think it'll end on kind of a cliffhanger. And it's going to be like, okay, this is going to roll right into the next arc. Batman, I'm not sure.
Right.
I feel like there's an opportunity, depending on how the next issue goes, and depending on the pacing is, they could actually wrap it in the next issue. But the pacing would have to be on point for it to not feel rushed. So I'm curious to see, because I don't... DC and Marvel have been doing this weird thing where all of a sudden, like... And I haven't determined whether or not I like it or don't like it, because for a long time they were kind of forcing everything into these 6-issue arcs.
Yeah.
And for some writers that like had it very well thought through and planned out and could pace very well, it worked incredibly well. But then you have other writers where it feels like, okay, so like the first half feels paced really well, and then all of a sudden the last half feels rushed, and you're like, oh, like they didn't know how to pace the last half of this arc. Well, so it feels like they actually need another couple of issues. One of the examples I go to a lot is I love how I can always just...
And yes, Trace, this is a very like astonishingly beautiful cover.
It is. I grabbed one of the variants as well.
Oh, yeah? The variants were great this week. But yeah, this was the alternate that I gave Andrew, even though I knew he wouldn't pick it. But I was like, it's pretty at least.
If we didn't have an Ultimate Spider-Man this week, I might have picked it, because this probably would have been my issue of the week otherwise.
It's pretty dang good. I'm so surprised by this book.
Flash forward, and Scott Lobdell is I wouldn't just call him a serviceable writer. I would call him a good writer.
I would call him good.
Not amazing, but good. This book feels like it should have been a maxi, not a 6-issue mini.
What?
Because
that's the one with the Mobius chair, right? Where he gets rid of it? Yeah, that definitely needed
this was what let it... This felt like the way that this mini feels, like the way it reads, feels like they were like, okay, we need you to fix all of this crap that Tom King goofed up, but we can't get Tom King out of here because he's under some super secret contract and he's ex-CIA and he has
that's all it is. That is genuinely what I'm convinced. He's got to have some CIA.
He has some like
somebody.
Blackmail crap on them or something. Yeah. And he was like, okay, cool.
Like,
and
there's
then,
no way this man should not be on something like Birds of Prey that nobody is reading right now. Like, this is a travesty.
Like, the first couple issues like feel really well paced, and then it feels like they told Lobdell, "Oh, we also need you to do this in 6 issues because we're gonna have this lead right into death metal."
Into death metal, yep.
And he was like, probably, what?
And you know what's even worse? I bet you he was like, okay, I have 6 issues to do this. Here's my story. And he's working with DC the entire time. And then out of nowhere, they probably 3 issues in go, oh, hey, by the way, we're switching things up. We're going right into death
and then
metal.
they ape the story. Yeah,
Like,
it was freaking stupid.
But then, didn't they like give it to Bat? I don't know. That was, I try to shove that out of my mind because that was one of probably the most disappointing like setup eras to nothing. Because we're probably
because it was setting up him as being like kind of like the linchpin to this event, and I was like, what? Like we're gonna go from Tom King completely character assassinating Wally West to then he's gonna be like the linchpin to save the day and save the multiverse in this newest event. Okay, cool, DC. All right, fine. I'm tracking with you. And then that's not at all what happened. And that's when I was just kind of like, that's when I checked out.
And honestly, we should have checked out. Probably, we probably shouldn't have checked it back in with this arc, but we will get to that.
In terms of Flash, yeah, but like as far as Wonder Woman goes, Wonder Woman, this is good.
This is such an incredibly good book. Trace says, Scott Lobdell made Generation X work for me years ago and does solid work. Like Andrew said, not OMG amazing, but serviceable and consistent in quality. I agree with that. He's one of those guys you would put on a book if you're like, Uncanny X-Men is going to be our book. We're going to have, we always know it's going to survive a purge, and we don't know what we're going to do with it. But put Lobdell on, he'll hang out for a while, even though he'll
do something solid at the very least.
He'll do like some solid things, and he'll do some like weird things. Because Lobdell was also the one who did the mutants are angels and demons. Like that's. Do you remember that whole?
Yeah.
bit?
Well, he also did this.
Oh, that's right. He did do that. He did.
Which,
Bartor.
In isolation,
Mary.
Hey, sweetheart. In isolation, like the first arc, or maybe 2 of New 52 and Teen Titans, is a decent story.
Yes, I agree.
However, it, like a lot of New 52 books, when you look at them in context of, we're dealing with characters that people have actually known for decades, and we just wiped out everything that people know of that, then all of a sudden you look at it with a different lens and you're like, I hate this. And so what is actually otherwise like a solid teen team story with, in my opinion, beautiful art, because I'm a big Brett Booth fan.
Even I admit with this arc, it's one of my favorites. I say it all the time. I'm sure Andrew's sick of hearing it, but you guys don't hear it. He does the best like glow, hard light effects of anybody in the industry. Brett Booth's like glow is amazing.
Yeah, it's fantastic. But then that becomes like really disappointing and ugly as a story because it's New 52. But we're not talking New 52. We're talking Absolute Wonder Woman, which was absolutely fantastic.
Yes,
this week.
Everything that went wrong with the New 52, this genuinely feels like they've learned those lessons. I know it's slightly different. They're not rebooting the main universe, but
right, it's just they're doing their own ultimate universe, for lack of a better term.
But this definitely feels like New 52 felt like it was very much an example of what we talk about all the time, where writers in the last couple years just want to subvert because if they do that, people will go, wow, you're such an amazing creative writer, and they'll also establish themselves in whatever franchise. It's all for them to huff their own farts.
Yeah,
doesn't always work out well, and that's kind of what the New 52 was a lot of, right? Like the one I always remember that really just bugs me because it's such bad characterization, and unfortunately, I actually think this came from Morrison, which is even more surprising because that's my favorite guy. It was when like Clark meets Lois when he first gets to Metropolis, and then he like goes over to Lois's house.
Are you talking about in Action Comics?
Yeah. When he like goes to talk to Lois or something, and he opens the door, and there's some guy, and they're like sleeping together or whatever, and she's like, "Oh, hey Clark, I'll talk to you at the office tomorrow." And then when they close the door, he can hear with a super hearing. It's like, "Who was that?" "Oh, it's Clark. He's a big weirdo. I don't even know what he's doing here." And it's like, I don't like any of what you just did to these characters. But here, this felt like, yes, they're trying to do something different, but like we've talked about, trying to stay still consistent to that core.
There has to be
who they
something
are.
that's the heart and soul of the character there. And this issue is yet again, this is like 2 issues in a row that it really shows the core of Diana.
And
still present, even though the circumstances have changed completely and the setup has changed completely, the core of her character still remains. And that's important to have.
And I think there's something, as we'll get into, I feel like this is a very realistic Diana, if that makes sense. Like the way she interacts with everybody, the things she says, it feels like that's what would happen if I were actually talking to this person in reality. There's a specific scene I'll bring up. We'll see it when we get there. But let's start getting there. So, if you guys remember where we are right now with Wonder Woman at the open of Absolute Wonder Woman number 5, the Tetracide, she is currently battling it. Last issue, she took her Buster Sword, grew it to...
and she made it like Zeus size.
Yeah, she did the Mega... she did the Rita thing where, make my monsters grow! And then the blade went out. She cut the Tetracide in half, and that is where we pick up back here. She sliced it, but she also recognizes like, oh, it's not dead. We still got things to do. Out of nowhere, the Air Force, understandably, guys, starts trying to bomb it. And, Wonder Woman goes like, Hera, no, like I got to go talk to them. And so first we get I don't know, I liked this. Like she does this weird magic like ball throw thing. I'm not saying it like in a bad way. We've never seen her any version of Wonder Woman do this kind of thing. Like she throws...
Well, it's because one of the things that sets Absolute Wonder Woman apart is that she knows more direct magic because of her mother.
Yes.
Right? Not her birth mother, Hippolyta, her adoptive mother.
Cersei, again, guys.
Yeah.
This is good subversion.
Yeah, which is super interesting and adds a kind of a cool extra additional new layer to her skill set. And, it removes some things, right? But it also adds other things. So she has some things that she still has in her toolkit, but other things are completely new because we did some kind of swapping around. And that's cool because it allows for some interesting situations in play. And this thing she does with the missiles where she tosses some sort of a spell at the missiles and she manages to catch 2 of them, not all of them. And this is an important thing because I hate the era that we live in right now because I feel like I have to always preface everything with like, she's not a girl boss type of thing. Like, I feel like I always have to say this now when it comes to female characters.
I'll assemble a couple like clips and we'll just play it every time we have to like do
right?
This. Like,
it's so freaking
disclaimer,
obnoxious.
Spencer and Andrew are not saying she's girl, but like, yeah.
Yeah, no, she's not a perfect character. And in many ways, she's actually less perfect than like main
like
Earth
Diana,
Zero, Prime Earth, whatever the hell we're calling it these days. Diana that we know from the main universe. Like she goofs up sometimes. She's not perfect at all, but she tosses the spell with the idea to like divert them because what the Tetracide did is the Tetracide redirected those missiles at the city, and she's like, "Oh my goddess, right? Like I gotta stop these," and she managed to stop 2 out of 3, right? And then thankfully, what happens is Pegasus. Her like it's a. Okay, like I don't care if you like Harry Potter or not. That's a Thestral.
Oh no, it absolutely
that is a Thestral.
Well, it is, but I will give Absolute Wonder Woman that. I did like that moment. I think it was issue like 1 or 2 where it's either Steve. I think it's Steve. He's like, "That's not a Pegasus," and she's like, "Oh, it is. Things have happened since like the legend was written or whatever." And I was like, "That's funny. I like that." But I agree with you. It is not a typical Pegasus. It is a. I always forget the name, but what you just said.
Yeah.
But yes. Also, there are way too many moments in this book where I'm like, is Pegasus about to die?
Dude, I was the same way. I'm like, are we going to lose like Wonder Woman's goodest boy? Is that what's going to happen right now? What is with comics right now like making us super afeared for the pets or animal familiars or animal partners of all of these characters?
I was just about to say, like, this is 2 weeks in a row where Andrew and I have gone through an issue going, oh my God, like don't kill the pets and don't kill this character that you're really foreshadowing. And my heart can't take it, especially if we find out what happens to Sparky. If we learn what happens to Sparky next week, I'm going to crash out.
If I called it with Sparky, man, I'm gonna be so sad.
We might just have like we'll run the stream, but
we might
won't
have
even
to
appear.
just dedicate the entire episode to like an in memoriam, right?
That's exactly what I was thinking. It'll be an hour-long like uploaded video of just like Sparky, and then like me and Andrew giving like eulogies. But yeah, so so this is the scene I was talking about right here. So after she deflects the missiles and after Pegasus helps, she goes up to the air, like the jet fighters, and she this is sort of one of those moments where you got to suspend your disbelief because there's no way anybody would hear her if she was outside the jet. But she basically goes up and goes like, "Hey, I need you to not like do that again." And the pilot goes like, "Oh, okay." And then she just goes. Why this moment really stood out to me because this is again, so because we're in this stupid current era, going into this book,
girl boss Diana would have yelled at that pilot and popped off and or you even didn't.
I was more right. That's a sassy sort of like like a condescension.
Like, what
thing.
the hell are you doing? Why are you being
That's what I was
an idiot?
expecting. But here she's just sort of like normal. This is what I was.
Please,
she's just
please
like,
stop. Right?
I need you to not do that. And he's just like, okay. This is what I meant when I was like, this feels just like somebody I would be talking to. She's not pompous. She's just talking to you. She's just like, hey, like, don't do that. She's not again. She's not even going up there being like, you're bad military. Don't go to war. She's like, I get it, but you're not helping right now. Right? Like get out of my way so I can do this.
Yeah.
So here's where I'm going to press you a little bit because we get, Diana flies back down. She says, all right, time to put an end to the tetracide. And we get a cool flashback where we learn that Cersei made Diana her lasso. In this in the All In universe, it is called I don't know how to speak Greek letters, but it's in English it's sacrifice.
Yeah.
And so this is where I want to ask you something. Cersei says she will hold anything, Diana, and she's talking about the lasso. And she will transform anything, but what she holds determines the shape of that transformation. Do you know what that means?
I think at least the way that I read it.
Please, because I read it with just confusion.
Fair enough. I mean, it is admittedly written kind of ambiguous there.
Of course, yeah.
So that's understandable. And I could have a completely incorrect read on it because it's not like we know immediately what the intention there and what the actual kind of deciphering of Cersei's words are. But the way that I read it is that depending on what it is that she's trying to bind with it will determine what it turns into. So I think it depends on whatever kind of energy or heart or like the core of whatever it is that she's trying to like trap. I think that's kind of what it is.
Okay.
And that also kind of sounds somewhat ambiguous, I know, but like that's the best that I could do when I was reading that because I was kind of like I scratched my head for a second. I was like, okay, so what could that mean? And I was in my rush to be like, I have like 5 seconds.
I know, yeah.
to like try and get through my comic book stack this week. I'm just gonna like, okay, what's the first thing that comes to my head that kind of makes some sense to me? All right, it's this.
see, I think this is funny because it goes back to the putting people with like work limits as opposed to letting them just write forever and getting lost because you had 5 seconds. Metaphorically, and you got a pretty good damn read of it. I was sitting here at 5 a.m. for 15 minutes rereading this page, going to the page later on where she uses it, going, I cannot fathom what the hell Cersei is talking about. Like when I asked you, it was genuinely, I have no idea. Andrew, please save me.
Yeah, that's unfortunately that's the best I got.
No, and you know what? I accept it. I get it, and I'm great. Like that. That's all I needed. So Trace says the Greek for sacrifice is Thysia. Yeah, I didn't know that, but I also would have never gotten that from the because Cersei says it down there at the bottom. She says, I
don't know how to read Greek. It's all Greek to me.
I just called it the Ouya, like that one consul that like disappeared and scammed everybody.
Oh wow, yeah.
Like that's just how I pronounced it. But that's what came to mind for me. But we then because this is I think what made it really kind of weird for me in terms of her lasso is the next page we get this sort of it's a flashback but also it's like a flashback within a flashback, if you will. But basically we learn that Diana went out to fight a harpy, like of Greek myth, and used the lasso and she tried to use it, or she did use it, but she found it cruel, right?
Yeah.
And which makes sense. And Cersei kind of really digs into her. It's like, you don't like, I know you want to think everything is your best friend, but it's not going to be, especially with where you're going to go in the future, like into man's world. Like, you need to be ready to protect yourself. I didn't get what Diana like did wrong here, or like, because in the 4 panels of her fight, like, she falls down, she wipes her mouth, wraps the lasso around the harpy's neck, and I figured it was like, when I first got to that neck panel, I was like, oh, she choked it out, she snapped it, whatever. But then in the next, she's like, it worked well. You are much more skilled in transmogrification. Like, I am far less fluent. Did she try to change it, or was she not able to? Is that what she's saying? And so then she had to like just snap the neck.
I'm not sure. We don't actually really find out. So it might be one of those things that we learn more
like
about
later on. Yeah,
later on. They might be trying to build something up with this, because this is effectively absolute Wonder Woman's lasso of truth.
Yeah,
right.
100%.
So I'm highly skeptical that this would be the last that we hear of this. So I have a feeling this is going to be something that kind of like pays off later on. We'll see. So far, much to my surprise, Kelly Thompson is showing herself to have like a decent story in her here, and some really good story beats. So like I'm on board. I'm curious to see what happens next. Well, this is, I think, one of those plot threads that we're gonna see continue to feed through coming arcs.
I didn't even think about that. I think you could be right. Like, we're gonna get a last page reveal on like issue 9 or whatever of her looking down and seeing whatever weird David Cronenberg thing she turned the harpy into or whatever.
Maybe.
But so Chuck Keyworth says, unfortunately, it's Kelly Thompson. They say it's good. I'm skeptical. We get that. We 1000% get that, guys.
Kelly Thompson earned that skepticism.
1000%. And that's why we both sort of hammer so much. Like, we're giving her credit where credit is due, because we went into this going, oh God, it's Kelly Thompson.
Yeah, and the first, 2 issues were just kind of like, all right, well, this is like interesting. I'm like curious,
the
but I'm not like on board.
Was very like, what are we doing here? Like, very slow.
The pacing was super
in those first 2 issues. I was figuring we would have been on issue 5 here. This would have been like issue 3, like near the end, right? Like that's what that pacing felt like. But thankfully, again, Kelly Thompson is genuinely impressing us with this book. She's really writing something intriguing. And Subhuman, I think both of us are right there with you. Artwork is still pretty rough to sort of handle.
Yeah, the art is not either of our bag.
But I will say, for this issue, I feel like they went harder than they did, because there's a lot of good coloring. There's a lot of these good panel layouts. I definitely didn't feel as bad ends up watching this or reading this.
I think what it is that the artist, and the name is escaping me, but the artist is actually really good
Hayden
at
Sherman,
layouts. Yeah. Like Hayden Sherman? Okay,
Sherman,
like
yeah.
His layouts are like really good, and his panel structure is really good. It's just like his art style isn't my bag.
Yeah.
It's not my cup of tea. But like, if you were to use this exact same panel layout, like doing the breakdowns and everything,
and give it to like Jason
take
Fabok or something, right?
Yeah. Or like almost anybody that you and I are big fans of, right?
Yeah. Brett Booth, Campbell, Marquez,
right? It would be incredible. It would be absolutely incredible. So I think that like his understanding of art and like paneling structure and movement and things like that, there's a strong understanding of it there. It's just his art style doesn't jive with me. But this is a rare instance where I'm not really a gigantic fan of the art, but I'm still really enjoying the book. At least as of like the last 2 issues, for sure. Maybe 3, but like definitely as of the last 2.
Because I'm right there with you, where normally I would be like, this art is bugging me, like I can't get into it. But here, I just go along for the ride. I know I don't like it, but it just isn't bugging me, because I guess I'm so pulled into what will happen on the next page. This is one of those books where it's like, if I turn the page, I don't know what's going to happen. Is Diana going to lose her arm? Are they going to go back to hell? genuinely like a fun ride. So
Yeah.
after meeting with Cersei and saying, I don't really like the lasso, she meets with Hecate, who is their goddess, because remember, all in flipped dark versions. And this was a really good scene to me, because Hecate basically comes down and she acts very motherly in the way we would think of a good mother, right? Like don't like speak bad against your mom. Think about what she's doing. She's trying to protect you. Like yes, this seems like a bad weapon, but you need to know, like, she's looking out. Like Hecate comes here and is like, listen to your mom. And it's a really good moment of like parent daughter dynamic and learning like a different perspective, but it's Hecate. So I'm like looking at this the entire time, and I know she's not saying any of this out of the goodness of her heart. This isn't because she cares about Cersei and Diana. There's something going on here, and I'm really intrigued by that, because Kelly is able to do it here without having a very overt like wink to the camera or have them say something. It's just very straightforward, but because you know the character and you know the circumstance, you're like, this is bad. I'm in danger. So so she meets with Hecate. She basically resolves all of that with her mom, says, yes, thank you for the lasso. I understand. I loved sort of what she takes away from this, which is like, what does she say? She says, man, maybe it's not here, but she says something about like, I'm not cruel, but you are. And maybe that's what I need. Like, I need more eyes because I am a limited person. And I was like, whoa, you wouldn't hear that. Like, that's just a good thing to hear. Like not even in terms of like culture war. I was just like, whoa, like, that's a really mature
I don't
thing
know
to
everything.
realize. Yeah.
Right?
I was like, whoa,
that's self-reflection, and not only recognizing internally your own shortcomings, but acknowledging them externally to other people. That's something that like people today are not very good about doing.
I zoomed in too far, but yeah, there's the text bubble. The Ouija is not the weapon I would have made for myself, but I see now that that is a good thing. As myself is limited, my vision narrow. I will always benefit from others' eyes. I was like, dang.
Yeah,
like,
that was
Kelly.
a good line. That was a good line.
Again, guys, impressing us at every page turn.
That was the opposite of a girl boss line, actually.
It really is. That's the humility. Like, just have one heroine in the last 10 years say, I need help, instead of saying, I've got this, I'm the bestorest. But
the bestest ever.
The bestest ever. So we return back to the present. Diana has her lasso, and she begins to use it for that purpose Andrew and I were discussing, because she wraps it around herself, starts casting a spell, and she turns into the actual giant Medusa of myth.
Which I was not expecting that to be what happened.
I kind of
my initial guess, because
on
on cover A, the main cover, I try to balance it when I'm looking at cover art, because some cover artists are very creative when it comes to what they do. Like, they'll have something that's actually kind of an Easter egg to what happens in the book, maybe not necessarily something that's super direct, right? So I was looking at this, I was looking at the cover, I'm like this is the first cover that I can recall for this series so far that has like super emphasis on her lasso, right? Her lasso's like all glowing and red and everything here. I'm like, okay, so like, is she going to lasso this thing and it's actually going to like absorb the tetracide, and that's why it becomes this glowing red, like super powerful lasso?
That could have
been
cool.
And therefore the lasso, instead of it being the lasso of truth, it's actually probably in more ways closer to Cassie Sandsmark's lasso, where it's more based on
where
fury,
even is that nowadays?
I don't even know. I don't think DC knows. Dude.
I don't think that. I genuinely don't think
they don't know what they're doing with Cassie. It makes me sad. But that's what my initial guess was, and I was completely wrong. And I wasn't mad that I was wrong either. I was just like, whoa, that was unexpected.
Like, did not see that coming. I thought that it wouldn't. I thought it was going to be something similar in the same vein. I thought she was just going to turn into a like a giant statue, like a Greek statue, like the Colossus of Rhodes.
And okay.
Same general principle. Like that's what I thought it was going to be. But then
if anything, you were closer to what actually happened than I was.
just a little bit. But yeah, so she turns into Medusa, everybody is sort of like, oh my God, what's going on? Also, this bugged me because it's like, does it not work if you see her on TV? I don't know.
Right.
I don't know.
She's not looking at them directly.
I guess, but look at the snakes are up there. I don't know.
Snakes, they have to be turned towards you and their eyes lock with you.
Now,
whether or not
the Harry Potter
of,
in him is getting out. I know this.
I was literally about to say, now whether it's actually going to work like the basilisk does in Chamber of Secrets.
There you go.
Where it's like, oh, do you see it in a puddle of water, therefore it doesn't kill you? Do you see the reflection in a mirror and it doesn't kill you? Or through a camera it doesn't kill you?
Yeah, like some filter.
Yeah, I have no idea. Yeah. But like, I was able to suspend my disbelief.
This is just me doing a very intentionally sort of like over the top cinema sinsy like nitpick. Like I know it doesn't matter, and I actually kind of was with you. I was like, oh, it's not direct, whatever, or it's through a screen, fine. But it was just one of those moments where I was like, hey, you explained everything else, explain this. But then we find out the reason Diana took on that form is to use the Medusa's power and get the Tetracide to look her straight in the eyes or straight in the face. Boom. Instant stone. Turns to instant stone. Yep. Then we get this pretty good scene where...
This was a great sequence, actually, and this was even more shocking because
it's a man and Steve Trevor.
Well, not just that. That as well. But this is Kelly Thompson. This is the same person who, on her first run on Captain Marvel, did the whole with, what was it, Mr. Atomic or was it Atomic Man or whatever thing where she had Carol go, I'm not going to let some 8-foot misogynist, blah, 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 right? Like, are you freaking kidding me? This same writer wrote this sequence, which couldn't be further from that other thing I just mentioned.
From it.
Like, this elevated Steve so much. Like, this, Steve saved the day here.
This is one of those moments where, yes, Steve is a side character here, but they're not diminishing him.
Yeah, Steve has never been the main character.
He isn't. No, absolutely not.
He was still elevated to a place of importance here.
Like to that point, in the Rebirth era, the 52 era, they kind of shoved him like really hard into the bad writing zone. Like they really wanted to trash his character. There was a lot of, oh, Steve's evil. He's working for Argus. He's working for Waller, and it's like, the guy knows Wonder Woman, man. He's not going to do that. So, to Andrew's point, how this all plays out is, like we were saying, Etta Candy and her sister and Barbara Minerva and Steve, they're all watching this play out, and they realize that Diana, there's no way for Diana to undo her transformation, right? The Medusa's not going to take the lasso off or whatever. So, Steve just leaps into action, just rips off a piece of his shirt, blindfolds himself so it doesn't happen. And let me go to the other thing so that you guys can all actually see it. And it's very, I have no other analogy for it, but this is better than what I'm about to compare it to. He basically does the Black Widow Hulk thing, right? Like he goes out to Diana and he's like, you're like, that's not you. Like, talk to me, like, come back to me. And she actually does. And it's funny.
They already have an existing bond.
They have an existing bond. And I liked this a little bit. You might not be able to see it because we're so far out, but in panel 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, not counting the one on like the spine as like a panel, but so the middle one at the bottom there. Well,
that would be panel 7 in my
1, 2, 3,
in my
4,
read.
5, 6. Yeah, see, that's what I mean.
The one that you're calling out is 5.
That
spine panel is 7.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That. Okay. Cool. We read it the same way. Good. Perfect. Perfect.
We're tracking.
So, yeah. I really liked that panel because if you see it, he's going out there. He's like, come back to us, blah blah blah. But Kelly puts in like a stutter at the very beginning of that sentence. He goes like, you are like you like he's scared, and I just felt like, yes, like that is what you would like. It just feels very grounded in a good way, not in the like we're trying to be super serious, but like. That's what would happen. This feels natural. Like, this feels real. Like, good
this
job,
is a Medusa
Kelly.
the size of a skyscraper. Like, Steve, blindfolded Steve right now should feel a little trepidatious about walking out into the street. But he knows that he needs to get Diana back to normal so that, all of the work that she just put in to try and save the city doesn't get thrown out the window and undone because now she's the one destroying the city, right? Like, we don't want to go there. So he's doing what's necessary, and that's within Steve's character. He's a very brave man.
Yeah, that like to me,
He's a
that
brave man
always
and a good
defines
man.
him. Yes, a good, brave man. Honest,
And that was what always stood out to Diana.
That he is good, like, to his core. It's not about, he's a soldier, I like his duty or whatever. She's like, you are a good human being all the way down, and she can tell. And so, like, side note, I know a lot of people complained about him, but I loved Chris Pine as Trevor. Like,
I thought he was great as
I thought he worked
as Steve
so
Trevor.
well. Like, he was perfect. Just so sad what they did to him in that second movie, but still a great Steve Trevor.
I try to forget that movie happened. That first one definitely happened, minus the third act being a little underwhelming. But like, at least in terms of the climax, it was kind of anticlimactic.
I always forgive that final battle because, like, that was what they were all doing at that era, was like blue sky beam, and I'm like, okay, like, I don't like
everything else about that movie is just absolutely wonderful.
So good. I genuinely love that first movie so much.
It was my first 4K DVD.
Right? Like, even like when she like puts the sword in her like dress and she's like, oh, okay, I can't take it. I still laugh. I don't know. Good job. Well, it wasn't what's her name. It was who wrote it. It was a comic writer.
It was a combination of writers.
Yeah, it was not Patty Jenkins, but
no.
So then so then we get resolution. I do like this. Diana's like, all right, unlike everything that came before this, Steve, this part's going to be fun. And
this is going to feel good. Yeah. And she bashes the thing that turned to stone, the tetracide. And this is, again, even though the artist's like personal style doesn't work for me, like, this paneling is great.
It's so good. Like,
I feel the impact of that.
I would love to see Hayden Sherman being given layout duties on a book and like handing the actual line art over to an artist, which happens a lot, guys. Like, that's a very common thing in the industry.
That's not uncommon. Like, you give somebody the breakdowns or the layouts to do, and then you have your penciler go over those, then you have your inker go over those, or if you're smart, you get somebody that can ink their own stuff. And then you do that. His layouts are so good.
The layouts are so good, and even just like the way the effects, I guess, is the way you sell it, right? Like the punch, like radiating circle here. I always go back to the first or second issue where there were those panels of her like flipping on the beach.
Yeah, it was doing a really great job of showing
really sell
movement.
that action. Yeah. So again, with your Subhuman, still not the best like art in general, but you have to, like, it's still good art, like, even if it doesn't work for us. But then essentially I like this little bit. It's another kind of big difference from the Diana we know. As soon as the tetracide is dead, she like gets down on her knees and she's like, thank you, Hecate, thank you, Art. Like, she starts thanking all these gods, which
she's far more of a religious Diana than what we've seen in the past. And we've seen Diana, like, praise the different gods and goddesses before. It's not like we've never seen it.
No.
But like, I feel like because this is in the first arc and it's at the finale to the first arc, this is Kelly Thompson telling us that, and we can also infer this conclusion based on what we've seen in terms of her interactions with like Hecate and all of that. Like, I think this is going to be a lot more foundational in core to this Diana's character, which I'm here for. Like, I'm really interested to see where they go with it.
I feel like we're going to get a big pantheon level ideological battle between like her and the gods, and I'm kind of on board for it. Like, in one of those moments of, she's her innocence where she thinks everybody's her friend, she probably thinks all these goddesses are really on her side, but she'll probably learn not really. We're kind of in this for ourselves. That is who the gods are. But then so that is kind of where we wrap this issue. Everything is resolved, and then I don't know about you, this felt like good pacing. Like, we got that big resolution, everything is set, and then they teased leading right into the next arc right here. And I was like, all right.
So the next arc, she's going to be in hell or Hades, right?
Or somewhere, And
that's what it seems like, which I'm here for. I'm on board for. I will say, and maybe this is because, this is going to lead right into the next book, there feels like, at least lately, like this really strong push and prevalence for like cursing in the comics, like, and it started to feel like maybe in isolation, this moment right here where It's not Etta that says it, right? It's her,
I think it's her sister. It's one of the Candy girls. Yeah, it's not Steve and it's not Barbara.
Where she's basically saying, "What the fuck?"
Yeah.
Right. You know. And I was just like, I read that, and it didn't like immediately. It's literally the last panel, so it couldn't take me out of the book, and it didn't ruin the book for me by any means. But I was just kind of like, was that necessary? Like, you could have literally just said, "What the hell," and it would have had the same impact to me, because it's not like there's been a like already preset consistency or anything with cursing in this book. Like, to my recollection, this is the first time somebody like actually drops what would normally be censored out as
I think
curse
you're right.
in the comics. And so it just felt out of place for me there. And that I'm using that to lead into Flash, because
you are.
Jai says damn like 8 million times. And correct me if I'm wrong, Wally and Linda's twins are like 12 years old right now, right? They're like 12, 13. They're like early teens or like preteens.
At their oldest, I think the oldest you could place them as is like 14 on the early side. But I don't think they're that old. I think they are like, I think Jai's like 11. And I think Irie's 13, 12 going on 13. Like, she's very up there. But no, not at the age where they should be or would be slinging, you know, swears all the time.
Yeah, and so it's just like, and the thing is, it's like Sai has Jai doing it, and there was that issue where like literally everybody was doing it, and I'm like, what's happening right now? Like, a Flash book is absolutely not where I would expect all of that to be going down, and it's just like, it gets augmented now. I guess what I'm getting at is, to circle it back around to Absolute Wonder Woman, is that I guess it's like augmenting that feeling of like, why is everybody cursing all of a sudden? It's not like I'm against cursing.
No, you're not.
Or anything. And it's
I mean,
not
you hang
like
out
I
with
might,
me, yeah.
yeah, and I might not do it that much, but and it's not like I would consistently or constantly have it in a comic book if I was writing one, but it's just like, you don't necessarily need to rely on that. Like, to me, that becomes shock value at a certain point. And it's like, if you're relying on something for shock value, then it doesn't actually have an organic place there.
See, I wholly agree with you on all of that. The slight pushback I would give is only in terms of Absolute Wonder Woman, because I read that, and like, whatever you might think of the intent, I think they were playing that for sort of like the joke, right? Like, we're all done. Whoa.
Right, and I do think it was meant to be a funny panel to end on.
And so I get that, and then with the Absolute universe being what it is, and sort of those, you know, especially with like the Ettas or the Candies rather, like that all made sense. If it came out of like Steve, if it came out of Barbara, I would have been like, very odd, okay, but we kind of already got the hint that at least that Candy sister is sort of the more rebellious, like, look out for yourself kind. So in terms of Wonder Woman, that didn't bother me, but I can see where it works for, or where it rubbed your fur wrong for you, because yes, when we get into Flash, as we will right now, everything goes off the rail here. That issue that we were talking about, right? Like, there's a moment where Linda finds out that Wally has been duplicating himself, and sure, you can go back and watch the episode. Both of us went, sure, we all understand maybe that initial reaction of like, why the hell didn't you tell me? Or like, why the didn't you tell me? Especially married partners and stuff. Yeah. But after that, it is like every other word bubble, not just from Linda, from Wally as well. And it's just like,
it just felt super out of character.
You know, this, again, kind of like what you were saying at the beginning of the show, Gods Among Us. I expect that kind of stuff out of Punisher, Wolverine, Daredevil, right? Maybe even Spider-Man in the darkest of moments, maybe. And that's just more of a like, shit. Like that, not out of my Aquaman, my Superman, my Flash. Like that just, it feels like, sorry, Marvel, but it feels like the DC heroes are on a higher like standard, right? Like of morality. So I expect better of you guys.
Be better.
Do better, Senators. Subhuman brings up, I thought Jai and Irie were twins. They are, but I think, and I could be completely wrong because we read a lot of Flash comics. I think sometime post their return, they did some weird age shenanigan thing where it was like, they fell out of the time stream and like Irie did it first, or it was something weird. So you might, or you are right, and they might still be technically classified as twins, but I will defend my read because they don't treat them like that. They definitely treat Jai as like the baby brother.
Yeah. But it's weird because they do that, but then in this issue, like the way he's talking makes him sound like he's way older. And there's been like a super inconsistency with the characterization of all the characters in this book.
Well, it's I mean, that just reminds me of what we talked about last week, right? Where all of a sudden Irie knows everything about where the like weird world or the war, whatever this place is. There's like 5 of them. Skitaris. It is Skitaris. Yeah. And remember, she was like chastising Mr. Terrific, and it's like, are you kidding me? Like the genius, the DC's Reed Richards.
Yeah,
you're telling
like,
him,
stop that.
Like, no,
stop
sit your
that
ass
right
down.
now. Yeah.
So, if you guys, I don't know if we brought this up or if this was just between us. So last month when the Flash 17 came out and we wrapped the last show where we talked about it, when we were talking afterwards, Andrew was like, "You need to tell me. Like, I will forget, but I'm putting it on you, Mav. Like, remind me to drop this book from my pull list." And I went, "Yes, sir. I will get that to you as soon as we're off stream." I didn't. So I got a message from him today, and he's like, "Guess what? I forgot to take off my pull list." So I know you said no, but like I'm definitely going to make that up to you. That's on me. We will get that off of your pull list because we were out last issue, guys. You might remember, but this goes to a bizarre new level. Like I don't even know where to start with this one. I mean, I guess we'll just dive in, but I'm genuinely like baffled at almost every page. So if you guys remember, where we are right now is Wally and the kids tried to go have a vacation in Skitaris. Things were going really weird. Wally has split himself into 2 different versions of himself. We don't know what that is yet. Jai and Irie are bouncing around between the Justice League Watchtower and, for Jai, sort of time and space because that's what his powers do. If you remember, we got that really weird, like, new Eclipso last issue who was very memey, very making
all of a
references.
sudden, and he didn't like he was still kind of like that in this issue, but it was like a fraction of it. It was like we had 2 different characters.
It was really weird. Like I read him here, and I was like, this.
It was closer to normal.
Yeah,
it was closer to normal Eclipso this issue. But last issue, it was like, why do we have Gen Z Eclipso right now? Like,
well,
what is
the
why
panel,
is he talking like this?
When he says "I am your father," when he's like fighting Wally, I'm like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, why are we being stupid right
now? Like,
why
is? And I mean, if you look at it retroactively too, in this issue, man, he goes and like Eclipso details, I am a like entity, right? Like I am a constant in the universe. I am like Darkseid. I exist. You're not gonna go watch Star Wars, dude. Like you have the cosmos. You're not gonna focus on a piece of Earth media from before the heroes were really showing up to fight you. Like it's all bizarre. But more to the point, so how do I put this? Opening panel, at least for me, Andrew, I'm already kind of perturbed by this issue because we open up where we left off with Jai, where he has, I think he's on like the moon or Mars or something, and he has accidentally teleported there in search of his dad. He's kind of lost, doesn't really know what's going on. The dog comes up to him and starts,
Foxy.
Foxy comes up, starts giving him kisses, loves, slobbers, is very encouraging. And we do get this internal monologue from the dog where it's like, oh, I am the good boy. And objectively, I have no problem with this concept, right? You and we both like our goodest boys. I love my dogs. So
we're both excited for Crypto.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, crypto bro. I am officially one. But what bothered me here, Andrew, is that like the dog is supposed to be this next level cosmic God being Speed Force baby.
Yeah, the dog literally came out of nowhere because it's actually born, at least to our understanding, it was born of the Speed Force and of like time and all this other crazy, honestly retarded crap that was not necessary. As on board as I normally am to adding a dog in any story, like it's hard for me to imagine adding a dog to a story as long as you're not planning on killing the dog.
Right, I know.
Not elevating the story. that's actually what's happening here, because all the dog is doing is distracting and making everything even more annoying than it already is, because it's like the way that Foxy's internal monologue in this issue reads is it's like Si Spurrier is going, well, what are some of the things you'd expect like a meme dog to say?
That
right?
Yes, very much
and that's literally all it is, paired with like some Einstein level, like all of a sudden talking about, astrophysics type weird stuff and metaphysical stuff. And it's like, what are we doing here? Why are we here? What is happening?
Exactly.
I don't do drugs. I've never been high. I took an extra strength Tylenol one time, and that was pretty wild. But like, I felt like I was on acid reading this book. I had no idea what was happening at any point.
Somebody who's dabbled in pretty much everything, I'm like, I have felt more coherent on everything I've tried than reading this book completely sober at 5:30 in the morning, right? Like, another one of those moments where I'm sitting there going, I don't know what to say. Like, what is this book doing? So, yeah, like Andrew said, the dog is here. It kind of just speaks in very Reddit dog sort of voice. The point I bring up about it being like cosmic entity is that if that's how it was made, why is it acting like a real dog? I don't know. Like, that just made me feel odd. Like it's just, I don't know. But as we keep going, we Jai starts seeing echoes of everything that sort of happened through time, which makes sense. That's what his powers do, or maybe
do now. I
guess, his powers are like way
like,
too undefined.
They've
weird.
changed his powers more times than I can count. And granted, I'm crappy at math and I can't count very well. But like, that's I guess that's neither here nor there. But yeah, I have no idea what the hell Jai's powers are now.
Remember that?
Right?
Like, nope,
he could change his density,
anymore.
or he could utilize the Speed Force to. His powers were actually very kind of like felt like they were early concept Strength Force. Is what they felt like.
It really
right?
was.
And they've been all over the place, right? And then Wally gave him, that extra boost that he had, and we've thought like, oh, so he's gonna now have like speed powers,
like
again,
he can run.
That's what makes sense. But nope, that's not what we're doing here.
Now
we have no idea.
Like weird little totem checkpoints and teleport to them, but then as we learn, he actually has the power to just travel through time whenever he wants.
Right, and it's like, what does any of this have to do with the Speed Force?
And what does it add? Like this just feels
Nothing.
like you're adding something to add something,
no,
right?
It's overcomplicating things to try and act like we're smarter than we actually are.
It really is that. And
I'm not calling Si Spurrier dumb, because he is actually a good writer, but everybody does have a limit to the level of like high-end intellect that they can write, and I think we've seen Si's.
I really think we do, because we just start devolving into. It's big, it's cosmic, it's esoteric, and that it doesn't really, for people like us who know the Speed Force and have studied the Speed Force, if you will, like,
yeah,
we're sitting here going like, no, that's not what it's at. Like, we know that's not
what
how
that
it
does.
works.
That's not how that works at all. That's not how the Force works.
Oh, look at it! It looks good on him, right? That jacket or the cardigan, whatever you want to call it. I think it's a jacket, right? That you're wearing.
Oh, me?
Yeah, it's
oh,
Mary.
Yeah.
Mary likes your jacket and your
hey,
energy
sweetie.
on this.
I mean, it's just a track jacket. It's just a workout jacket that I wear. That I decide to throw on because it's also super thin, and so I'm not going to get overheated.
Yeah, you're not going to boil out. I have a couple like those. It's still a good look, but so again, the next freaking pages, I already have a problem, right? Because when we get back to like the A story, Eclipso is sort of telling Wally his plans, telling him how everything broke down. And honestly, like Andrew and I were saying, I think I can speak for both of us, where this exposition wasn't awful. It kind of made sense. He's talking about, I was here, I was capturing the Spectre, and then Darkseid showed up, and I would have beat him, but then Darkseid killed me, and then my physical body like disappeared, but my essence of Eclipso like left, and I had to find a host. That part of it all was kind of like, okay, I can see that. But then they don't really do anything fun with it. They don't explore it. They just go,
no, because then the rest of the issue is literally just exposition from Eclipso and from the dog, and just like there's not story happening right
There
now.
is no story. There's just
You're telling us information rather
and
than
that's
showing us a story.
But it's not even like coherent information, right? It just feels like
Yeah.
you're throwing things at us and we go, okay, that's a thing. Okay, that's a thing. Okay, that's a thing. But there's no payoff. We're not going anywhere. It's weird. And so before we move on to the rest of Eclipso's retardedness, I wanted to point this out to you because I know you are you have you have religious faith, you Christian faith, you like the Spectre, you especially like the Spectre's connection to Wally when he does the like he's looking out for you.
Yeah.
So in this moment, I'm not Eclipso beats the Spectre. Totally fine with that, whatever. It's superhero comics. But like he curves away from classifying the Spectre, like Si Spurrier moves away from classifying the Spectre as God, right? Because he has Eclipso say like
as being connected to God,
the living wrath of creation, which is like, I know what you guys are doing. You're trying to thread the needle. But then, what was the thing? It's like he beats him, and then he also says like, oh, there are more powerful things out there than the Spectre. And I'm like, no, there really shouldn't be. It really, maybe Darkseid. That should maybe be about it, right?
Like there really aren't many.
And like
the whole thing is the Spectre deliberately does not get directly involved in things because he's too powerful.
And
right?
What happened the last time he did? That was Infinite Crisis, and God said, I don't think so. That was not the agreement, Jim. And
God literally was like, no, we're not doing that. Like that's not what you're supposed to do. That's not your job. Right.
And so, yeah, just like even so knowing that is like a point of enjoyment for the Spectre for you. And even for me, like being secular, I always liked that. I liked the Spectre being an element, like the hand of God. That was always cool. So I just got really annoyed that we just got back to acknowledging that the Spectre is part of God. And
that was
here
only,
we go.
I mean, that was like what, maybe 2 years ago,
if that. Dude.
And that was the last time also that we were dealing with when we were dealing with Eclipso as well at the time.
That actually
it was
true,
literally we were dealing with two of the same characters. That's where is it?
I know you have it.
I know I have it. It's here somewhere. Is Eclipse? Yeah, it's this one.
That it is. Yep. Oh yeah, look. I forgot he was even the name of the arc. I forgot that. Yeah.
And where the hell is it? Like, it's such a great, beautiful moment that reminds people Wally's actually he's a character that's meant to be kind of like that Bible Belt, type, conservative type character, and he has this beautiful interaction with the Spectre, where the Spectre reminds him that, hey, he's looking out for you and he's pleased with you. And Wally goes, oh, that's cool. And then he's go, wait, he? As in, like...
But, like, see,
right?
They do the thing there where that is technically, like, indirectly addressing it, but it's also sort of like, we all know what they mean, right?
Yeah.
There's no ambiguity there.
They're not naming it, but they're pointing to it.
Yes, exactly.
Right?
Whereas here,
it's both not naming it and like trying their best
intentionally
not
curving
to point
away from it. Yeah,
it's like, come on, you don't need to do that. Like, it's literally the Spectre.
It bugs me so much because what do you do with the Spectre after that? Like, oh, you're just the wrath of what are you talking about? I don't know. It just makes him like not a cool character, and that's probably why we don't see him anymore. But
yeah.
So aside from that, after we learn about the recaps and everything, we basically learned that Eclipso said, hey, I found these. And this is another one of those things where he's like, oh, I died, but then my spirit found these 7 ancient Atlantean machines. And they let me
Which felt like a complete asshole.
Oh, it was the biggest fucking...
I was like,
I'm
wait,
sorry.
what?
Like, I was mad when I read that.
Atlantean machines? What are we doing here?
7 Atlantean machines, and they're in a pentagram. And I'm just like, what are we... This is so bad. Like, this is like... Who does those movies where like Transformers and Transmorphers or whatever, and it comes out like a week before.
The people that do like the C or D movie knockoff parodies,
right?
To
like trick your grandma into buying the DVD or whatever. Yeah,
right.
It feels like that. Like it would
We
be a
have
plot point.
Transformers at home.
Exactly. And here's what actually bums me out, and I just sort of it all sort of resolved in my head because I brought this up to you. If you guys out there in the chat, you can see one of these so-called quote-unquote Atlantean machines is right down there in the third panel, the big bottom one, and it's a big translucent glowy purple thing. I thought that was going to be Doc Manhattan's like Mars crystal palace thing that he makes in Watchmen, like, but when Laurie comes to visit him, and even then I was like,
nah, they're never going back to that.
Well, that's okay. So that's where my weird conflict goes, because I was like, that's really stupid. Like when I read that, I was like, I do not like that. Like, can we just ignore sort of most of what Doomsday Clock did? Like, it's just, it didn't work, guys. But then I go, I think I much rather would have had you just reference that instead of 7 Atlantean random like we've never talked about.
Not even on Earth.
Yeah,
and
how
we're
did
talking about
Atlanteans
Atlanteans.
I don't even know. Like,
what are we doing here?
So
guys?
bad.
Come
but yeah,
on.
so then he basically says like, I decided to give up being evil and be happy, because that's what the machines do, I guess. They transform emotions, and so then we go back to Wally, and really all that's happening here with Wally is he's kind of just having like a superpower freak out, which we've seen before.
Yeah.
Which, like, okay, it's not an inherently dumb plot point, but we've seen it before, and what you were saying.
And it's seldom done well.
It's seldom done well, and also this doesn't go anywhere, man. Like,
it literally goes nowhere.
They have Black Canary, like, oh, I can put him down, and then his future son is like, I can vent his time energy, and then Dr. Occult's like, oh, I can do some magic, and then nope, he just pushes them all off, and he just keeps raging for like no reason, I guess. It's again, guys, like, I wish we could give you a more coherent read, but this is literally the experience of reading this book. You turn the page and you go, this is happening, why? And you don't get a why. You just get the next event. Because, yeah, after seeing Wally freak out, we jump back to Jai, and he's trying to get back to Wally, can't really do it right. The dog is just going like, you can do it. Like, I believe in you. Again, like, there's just nothing doing. And once we get back to the Eclipso like story, he's just still explaining like, I manipulated everybody's emotions. That's why
he's
everybody's
still just expositing like the whole freaking issue.
All expositing. Like, Wally is
like, this is like
both versions of Wally maybe have 7 panels in this book.
Yeah, Wally's barely in this book. This is just.
It's just
this book.
It's mind numbing. It is pointless. It's just bad, guys. Like, I'm sure this rings true for you, but like, I read this and I just feel bad. I go, this isn't like the Wally I know. This isn't how any of these characters work. I don't know. It's so bad. And I really can't add anything to that. Nothing goes anywhere. We're just, again, cute dog. I love the interactions, but it has kind of no place in what we're doing right now.
It doesn't feel like it's adding anything.
It doesn't. It just feels like, okay, you're making the bond between him and Jai, but you could have done that visually just by having the dog with him, right? Like, have Jai start crying and the dog like rubs his nose. You got the entire message there instead of having to go into his head and hear his thoughts.
Because it's not like they're even having a back and forth directly.
No.
There's just Jai making statements.
And then the dog observing them.
Yeah. And basically giving its own commentary on them, that's not actually helpful for us.
Like, we don't need we don't need that.
We're not learning anything during that. This is not a good book.
It's really not.
Si Spurrier is a good writer, and this is a bad book.
Yeah, like, because
and I'm over it. I'm like, I
am super done. I don't even want to ask my like Pakistani guy to let me know what's going on with this anymore. Like, I am just done with this book, right? Like, even right here. So now Wally just starts freaking out and he starts wanting to fight everybody. That's boring. We've been there. Like, Spurrier did that during his run, or his last pre-all-in run. And then we get Jai going, well, how does the Atlantean machine work? It just does. And off to the races they go.
Deus Ex Machina to nowhere.
It really is. That is the book. I will admit, I'll give Si this. This was an interesting little bit to me because Eclipso realizes, like, you can't destroy hatred. You can transform anger into passion or joy or whatever, but hatred is always going to be there. So the reason we saw Weather Wizard in the very beginning is because Eclipso was like, magic is just patterns. So who else better to, help me deal with the hatred and manipulate it out of here than the Weather Wizard? And then it just backfired on him. So I was like, that's actually not a bad setup. It's just
it didn't go anywhere.
It didn't go anywhere. You didn't execute it like that. You just, again, Weather Wizard got beat in the first 4 panels of that first issue. And okay, I genuinely forgot he was a part of this book until right here. This was the moment. Yeah, because speaking of the Spectre stuff, down here, panel, that'll be 5, the very bottom one.
Yeah.
Eclipso's talking to the locked up Jim Corrigan, the host of the Spectre, and Jim goes, there's a new power coming, something astonishing, something greater by far than the wrath of creation. And I was just, I don't know, man. I think that might have been the final bullet in the back of my head for my enjoyment of this, or interest. I wouldn't even call it that at this point. My looking in its direction.
I was gonna say, yeah, interest is probably giving it a little too much credit.
A little too much.
Yeah, it's just.
And then, aren't you excited to see the Frog Girl fight Wally?
No, I don't care about the Frog
Nobody
Lizard
cares.
Girl.
I know.
I don't like the Frog Lizard Girl. I don't like Wally's stupid, retarded new suit. I don't like the crappy, really weird lettering on this book that is nowhere else in DC's library right now.
And they still keep doing it. And it gets worse here because Eclipso has his own font, and they do it in his own font. So, where before we were like, why are they just going back and forth between uppercase and lowercase? Now it's like, oh, they're doing it in 4 different styles because now they're doing it Eclipso way. And it's just, I'm not about it. It's somebody needed to put limiters on Si and say, you need to color inside of the lines instead of having free reign, because this isn't even. Do you remember when, I believe it was Infinite Crisis was about to start or had just started? It was either that or Final Crisis, where there was about 12 issues or so that each book had to wrap up their stuff, but everybody knew the event was coming, so you got a lot of weird stories. The one I remember for the Flash is he starts fighting that bee enemy. It's not Swarm, but do you remember that? It's a 2-issue arc where he has to fight a bunch of bees, and I was like, all right, weird, but I guess you guys are just killing time because you can't do anything with Final Crisis coming up. And that is what this feels like, but even worse because there's nothing happening. There's no pressure on you, Si. You could have sat here and explored things, or taken a month, put Flash as one of the last all-in books to come out and take a week to really hammer this home. Call Jeff Johns, call Mark Waid. I know he's in the building. Just anybody else, because this is not working.
Yeah.
And that's really all I have to say about that. Again, guys, this is probably the last you will hear us talk about, at least Si's this part of his run, I guess. If it gets better and we hear it down the grapevine 20 issues later, maybe we'll revisit, but this is bad. This is Dazzler level. This ain't great.
Yeah. And it's with a character that we both love.
He is our DC guy, and they don't care. And it bums me out even more because I literally read the, like I said, I had to go read the Tom King Heroes in Crisis stuff, and then to wash that taste out of my mouth and also remind me what happened, I went and I read, I think it was in Flash, I don't remember where it happened, but when he goes back in time, remember, and he saves everybody except for Roy. I read that, and that was them retconning all of Heroes in Crisis, and it actually worked, and it felt like Wally, and I was like, oh, that's nice.
They had to retcon Heroes in Crisis 3 times.
And it's still not completely gone, but it really
no, yeah, because freaking what was it? Absolute Power had to freaking remind people that it existed.
It exists, and now Amanda Waller got it, put it in a closet, and I hope that was our Indiana Jones moment, right? It's just going to be shoved into Argus, and we're never going to have to hear about it again.
I hope to God.
But yeah, guys, do not buy Flash, or if you were, good hop-off point. Let's see. What do you want to hit now? I know we kind of went a little wild with our opener where we were just having fun, but we've got we're about 2 hours and 20 minutes into this. Do you want to hit X-Men, I guess? Do you want to rap? What do you want to do?
Well, I want to talk Ultimate Spider-Man.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
The only we'll end with Ultimate Spider-Man here.
We'll quick hit X-Men, I guess.
The only thing worth mentioning to me in this was that I called it. I was right.
That's what I want. I wanted you to have your victory lap.
I said last time we talked about this book that the reason why these guys were coming for Scott was because his wife is the Phoenix, and it was going to have something to do with that, and that's literally what happened. That's why they were coming after him, and they wanted to use him as leverage, which is literally what I said would happen. And Jed McKay, you are so freaking predictable.
You are so predictable, and you are...
And I don't... Alpha Flight isn't...
They're fine.
They're there. They exist.
I like Vindicator's suit a lot. I always thought his design looks really cool. But I kind of just don't care.
But otherwise, it was just like literally, this was an Alpha Flight book. Because the X-Men are barely in it until like near the end, which, Magic has a cool moment where she pulls everybody out of a tight spot. And like, that's cool and all. Magic is cool. But otherwise, like nothing happens. And the big threat gets handled pretty quickly once we get to the point where they're dealing with the threat. And it's just, man, this book's, unless Jed McKay is having his moments of like making Scott a total Chad and badass, the book is boring, man.
There's really nothing going on here.
It's just a snooze fest.
Well, it's a snooze fest, and it's also, as we've seen from MidKay, it's kind of poorly written, because I'm surprised you didn't bring this up, considering how much we both loved that moment with Phoenix, but this was my sort of first thought. So we get to the, we break out Scott, everybody's, we get to do our hero moment. They confront the bad guys. They were actually, I was kind of surprised they were like a Krakoa era character, whatever. They're not really important. It was just like, oh, wow, it's actually somebody interesting. But where was that? Where do they say it? They explain it. It's the bad guys where. Oh, yeah. So right here, we learn, Scott goes, why do you want me? Like, why did you capture me? And the two bad guys, they go, well, because your wife is the Phoenix and she's more active than ever. Sounds like that's pretty good leverage. If you are aware of what the Phoenix is currently doing, you know that she can turn you into a star. Like, yeah, taking Scott is only going to piss her off. There's no leverage you can take over God. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like this is basically, or it's not even true, like close, but like, imagine if somebody went, oh, Jesus is preaching. We're going to go take his mom, like we're going to go take Mary and take her hostage because that way we'll be able to control him. And he goes, you remember who, like what I am, right? Like, okay, snap, gone, pillar of salt. Like it. So as soon as I got there, I went, what was the entire point of this then? What, like, are your villains that actually retarded that they just don't know what they're up against? But yeah,
I guess it's possible that they don't know what the Phoenix has been doing, but like, yeah, I don't know. It was like, at least as the reader who does have that context, I was just like, y'all are dumb. Like,
yeah, exactly. Like you're only like speeding up. You're afraid of she's going to kill you. Well, now she definitely will. Like this is going to get her to do it. But yeah, very, very, very mid issue. I wanted to bring this up earlier. While this was a book that had Stegman advertised for it, I will give this book the only amount of credit for swapping artists because
at least the artist that they swapped to is doing a really good job.
He's doing a really good job and he's close. Like he has a very Stegman feel, so it doesn't feel too off. Like I think it was when they made that jump in like issue 4, you and I were both even like, is this him? It feels like him, but not quite. So
he has a similar enough style that it was as seamless a transition as you're gonna have. Right?
Yeah, exactly. But the other ones, like they didn't even try, right? Like whoever they got to replace Marquez, it was just whoever was hanging around the office that day.
Junk, absolute junk. Can't stand it. Can't stand it at all.
But yeah, so a whatever issue. I actually do kind of like this one shot from Netho, just the Alpha Flight flying into action.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good splash page.
Yeah, exactly. The art's pretty good, but it's just nothing happens. It's all stupid. I just realized this. Jed writes like he's writing for a like kids cartoon where everything has to resolve in that episode, and then when you go to the next episode, kind of none of that really matters. Maybe once you get to the season finale.
remove these last 2 issues, this one and the one prior to it, and it feels like nothing really changes.
Well, you could remove that, and even though like they revisited it, you could have done without that entire Avengers versus X-Men issue. You could have just had an epilogue, right, where Scott and Carol have like a meeting, and they have the same conversation, but we didn't have to waste an entire issue with Psylocke joining the group dinner in her like bath towel or whatever.
Yeah, that was.
I still can't get over that one. That one was
throwaway issue.
But we're done with the filthy muties, the filthy Canadians up there. They keep coming down here and taking our comedy jobs, and I think we need to build the border wall up there. But as Andrew said, we've had some pretty doom and gloom this week. We had that awful Flash issue. We had everything we were talking about beforehand. We had MidKay, but we had Peak. So it's very, very, very hard to say that this was a bad week, quote unquote.
Yeah. Don't want to spend too long on it, but this issue was so good.
I don't think there's a lot of time to spend on this one.
Well, the thing is, not a lot happens, but the stuff that does happen is like, whoa.
Yeah. So we really only do this for this book because it is so damn good, but we will be spoiling it. If you guys are reading the series, if you're actively following it, take this opportunity. Maybe come back if you want to see us sign off, come back in 20 minutes or something. If not, we'll see you next week. But you don't want to spoil this book. If you were reading this, please, I am begging you, just go into this book and read it. Like
this issue was wild.
And with that, we'll get right into it. So, as you guys all will remember where we picked off last time, Kraven has kidnapped Harry and Peter and is subjecting them to a hunting game within the Savage Land, which I just like that they put it in the center of the earth. They went King Kong with it. Instead of making it some random weird island, they put it right in the center of the earth. So I always liked that. But yeah, they're in the middle of, I guess you could call it a killing game. Richard Parker is running around in the symbiote suit. And that is exactly where we pick up, where Richard makes the acquaintance of the new Black Cat. And I really liked this moment. I know I sent you one of the preview images a couple weeks ago, but seeing the whole thing now, they have an amazing chemistry here where Hickman's able to communicate, like, they're both young and they're both trying to fulfill, like, the shoes they're in, but they're both unconfident about it, but they're trying to put on this air. It's very, like, teenager without just doing, like, PSA teenager writing. You know what I mean? And, yeah, so they start fighting. They whatchamacallit? What am I trying to say here? They fight, they resolve, they decide, hey, let's talk it out. Richard reveals who he is. So does Felicia. They have a talk. If you guys remember, Andrew and I talked about this a little bit last issue, but we kind of had this, theory or this question of, is Richard Parker autistic in sort of any sense? And we were praising it because it seems like it. He's very quiet, he's reserved, he really loves his books, but we were like, they're not confirming it, but we can read into it's good subtle writing, right? They're not putting it in your face and they're not making it a big sign, but they're saying this could be a thing. And again, they still play on that, but I think this moment gives us sort of real good confirmation that he at least leans a little bit that way, because Felicia starts asking him, like, how old are you? And, Felicia says 17. He says 15. And she goes, you're not really Spider-Man, are you? And then Richard goes, yeah, I said that exactly the way I was supposed to. I was direct. I was emphatic. I projected. My enunciation was clear. And I used declarative sentences. And then Felicia goes, you read a lot of books, don't you? And he goes, a few, but good. I told this to Andrew, who is currently taking a leak, but I love these, like, just from this interaction, I want them to get together. I will ship this forever. I really hope something bad doesn't happen to either of them to break them up or whatever, but I know it will. But aside from that, I'm really liking this unique dynamic between the two of them.
It was actually really adorable.
Right? That's what I mean. Like it's so
unexpectedly,
very unexpectedly. I don't know if you heard what I was saying, but I loved this moment of autism confirmation, I guess you could say it.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, we already knew.
Yep.
And it's also not like it's something that they haven't stated it. Right. They've just shown it. Right. And that's perfectly fine. Like, I have no issue. Like, it's when you start pointing at it and being like, look at us. We did this.
That's
right?
exactly it. Yep.
Or you have all of a sudden you have some random panel where MJ or Pete or both of them are talking about like, hey, we have an autistic kid, blah, blah, blah.
Or
like, that's when it becomes inorganic and annoying and stupid and unnecessary. No, all you did was you added this little facet to this character, and you're utilizing it as a narrative tool and doing it really well.
Really well.
Like, really, really well. Like, there are very, very few instances where that's done well.
Yeah.
One of the instances where I actually very much like it. Now, these movies are kind of hit and miss, but the Fantastic Beasts films. Newt Scamander is absolute. It's never pointed at and it's never stated, but it is absolutely shown that he has some level of autism to him, and it's done so well. And that's a credit to Eddie Redmayne as well as an actor.
Like
He's phenomenal. But when you do something like that, if you do it well, you don't point at it, you don't like gloat that you did it. Like, look at me, right? Like, it just happens to be a part of the story. And they've done it so well with Richard Parker here, and it feels organic. It feels incredibly organic. It never once has felt like, oh gosh, are they really doing that with the character? Like, unless you're an intellectually dishonest person, you haven't thought that.
Bingo, bango, bongo, to steal a phrase from another autist. But
I'm gonna tell Leon,
do it. Maybe he can understand what you're saying when he's done playing with his blocks. No, like that is the key to this. Is that this to me felt so natural in the sense of like, if anybody has talked to like an autistic person of any stripe, you would know. No, like Andrew said, they don't come out and go, "I'm autistic," but you go, "Oh, there's something just a little, like, not bad, but like there's something going on, huh?" And that's sort of exactly what Felicia does. But there's no, "Oh, you're autistic." It's just like, you read a lot of books, huh? Like, this is natural human dialogue.
And that was like the first moment where they could have, if Jonathan Hickman wanted to be inorganic and like a high and mighty schmuck, he could have had this, this universe's Felicia say something to the effect of, "Oh, you're on the spectrum?"
Yes.
Or, point at it, whatever, and do something dumb. And that would have immediately pulled me out of this scene and would have reduced the quality of this interaction, because this interaction is so, so good.
And I also worry that if the second it gets that blatant, then it's going to start being that thing in our mind that we unfortunately consider when we're reading the rest of the book, right? Like, why aren't you addressing him being autistic right now? Oh, he kind of talked way too easily to Harry right there. Like, what's going on? When you do it like this, you can go, I see it. It might not be the most on the nose autism, right? Like, he doesn't need the helmet.
But he's clearly somewhere on the spectrum, and it's a spectrum for a reason, because there are different levels to it.
Yep.
Cool. We don't need to go into the actual specifics of that. We just know that there are moments like here, he's not talking with his dad here. He's not talking with his mom here. He's not talking with his sister. He's interacting with a complete stranger. And so he is therefore defaulting to these things that he has probably read up on
or been
to
taught,
try
honestly,
and have or taught. Yeah, I mean, he has a genius father and a socialite, hyper extroverted, very socially intelligent mother. Right,
I can see them getting him like autism therapy or whatever.
Maybe,
he wants,
yeah,
right? Like once a week. But we don't need to point it out.
It's entirely possible, because we know that MJ makes bank. Right?
Oh yeah,
and so you pair those things together, and you can say, okay, so he's clearly had some level of education and training to where he knows how to shift his body, shift his mind into a default type of response,
how to
interact.
Communicate. Yes.
In a maybe not necessarily organic way, because it's not necessarily the way that normal people would interact with each other, but he's not necessarily a normal person either.
Yeah.
And so he's interacting as close to normal as he can. And so he's defaulting to the things that he's read. And that's what makes this line by Felicia, like, you read a lot of books, don't you? Like, a very good line, because the way that I read into that is that we've already been shown throughout this series that Richard Parker is a bookworm. He does a lot of reading, right? And so we can now infer
he's like the only other person who read Jonah's book.
right, exactly. Like in counting Jonah. And so
yeah, exactly.
we can infer based on those interactions and the conversation that we just had that, you know, Felicia might have, even because she's kind of been raised in this interesting social environment, maybe she read into that. And so she can tell that his response is one of like, okay, he's like defaulting to exactly that. He's defaulting to this kind of like very measured, very well-read response in order to be able to interact on kind of some sort of a human level with her. And that, to me, that's really layered, very smart writing and handling of this type of a facet of a character. It's not like I very specifically worded that. I didn't want to say this type of character.
I know.
Because autistic isn't all that Richard Parker is.
No.
It's a facet of his character. We know a lot of things about his character.
We can look
this is just one of them.
Look at him. His dad went missing, and he's putting on the suit
took
and
it
going
upon
out and
himself.
right?
And
Spider-Man.
He's just a kid.
And like he's even fighting, right? Like it's not even just like web slinging. He's fighting Felicia here. It's an actual super villain as far as he knows. So he is not just the autistic character. He is a character who happens to be on the spectrum.
Correct.
And yeah, no, I absolutely love this page to death. I don't know if you caught it, but I was like, I ship them now. Nothing bad better happen to them, even though I know absolutely something is going to, like, terrible is about to happen.
Well, what was interesting to me was that Hickman did very deliberately, and it felt organic to the scene too. He deliberately stated the ages of the characters.
Oh yeah, like I'm 17.
They're both mid-teens, right? Mm-hmm. Like Felicia's 16 here, and Richard is 15. Like they're in that like middle high school age where it's like, and I'm not a shipper type person, but like if the story organically went that route, I'd be okay with it. And I think you could do some interesting things with that. And that, even though I will still say I'm not on board with race swapping or gender swapping.
Nope.
Ever by default. However, if you want to sell me on this, keep the writing good. And now having it as a character who is Richard's age instead of Peter's age, now we're not race swapping Peter's Felicia.
Now it's not
creating an entirely different character.
It's not just Black Felicia. This is Felicia Hardy of Ultimate. Like, she has a personality.
It's an entirely different character. And that's, again, that's not me saying I like the idea of the race swap, because you could still do that. But have it be white Felicia. You still could have done that. And I think that by default, my response would be you still should have done that. However, if this is what we're working with, sell me on this character specifically by having, instead of her interactions being with a, late 20s or early 30s Peter, whatever he is here.
Well, how old are you? They clearly modeled it after exactly you, like last January. So
okay. I'm still waiting on my check, Marvel, right, for utilizing my likeness.
It's been a couple weeks.
Ultimate Universe Peter. But, sell me on it by pairing her, not necessarily romantically, but by like having those interactions and a lot of that character growth be with a character that isn't Peter. Because Black Cat is intrinsically tied to Peter Parker. That is an incredibly important relationship there for numerous reasons. So if you're going to change something that drastic about her character, we just talked about it earlier in the show, aesthetics are part of a character. Okay, so if you're going to drastically change this part of the character, you need to do the work to organically change a lot of other things for me to buy into it. So far, the writing in this issue has sold me thus far.
There is still a chance that something could go wrong, but
absolutely. in its modern comics. So my I don't want to say knee-jerk response,
but you're like
but I will always have in the back of my mind
yeah.
a readiness
Yep.
to not be
yes,
surprised.
the readiness. That's the right one. Yeah.
I'll be braced to not be surprised, but I'll still try to remain hopeful.
But yeah, no, I agree with you wholeheartedly in everything you'd say or you said. I would just add that, like, in terms of what you were talking about, this is actually like a different version of Felicia. You know what I mean? Think back to the very first Spider-Verse event when they got, you know, it's Peter and he goes, oh, who are we teaming up with? And you have Spider-Gwen, you have Miguel, you have Ben, you have Kane, you had Jessica Drew. Like, these were all different characters until we got into like Spider-Verse 3 or whatever, where they're oh, you're just Spider-Man, you're just Peter again. That's
the
what
way
you
that
do.
this character reads is you could actually change the character's name. Even
you could
honestly
make her original.
like you can, like it honestly feels like, and I actually kind of at this point wish that that's the route that Hickman had gone and like give her a different name. It doesn't have to be a Felicia. That's okay. It can be somebody else that's taking on the moniker of Black Cat.
Oh,
in this
yeah,
universe,
I could've liked that. Yeah.
Right? In this universe, her father was the Black Cat.
The Miles Morales Peter Parker. Yeah.
This is the daughter of the Black Cat, but she's not Felicia. So you can just write her as and establish her as her own completely different thing. Right? Because so far she's being written as a completely different. Nothing about her characterization is anything remotely similar to Felicia Harding from 616.
Like,
and that
Felicia hates
one
her
that's
dad.
important because she's
and
like a teenager, right? And so you wouldn't expect her to act like the sex pot, like temptress that she is in 616 as an adult.
And super thief, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think that's, the more I think about it, I would have even preferred that they do that and like just give her a different name. And that so she's her own character, because I don't want to throw out this interaction. I don't want to throw out this scene and this character building between the two, between Richard and her. Because if you had done, and this is why I prefer it over my initial default, which would have been to like just keep it our normal white Felicia.
Right.
If you had done Felicia as she normally looks, my immediate thing would have been to involve her with Peter in some shape or form, right?
You have to, yeah.
Right, you literally have to. But if you had done that and like made her this 16-year-old character, or 16 and a half, as they very specific,
right here,
very specifically lean on in the book,
which
difference. Is funny because teenagers will do that, right? Like, how tall are you? I'm 5'9" and a half. Are you really 5'9"? No, I'm 5'8" and a half, but I round up, right?
Right,
like
exactly.
So people do that, and that's an organic thing.
It's
that's
super,
a very human
super
thing.
organic between them, yeah.
And so I don't want to lose this interaction and lose this character growth. So I would just say like change the character's name.
I actually
like
no,
this
I
is not
actually
Felicia.
like that. Yeah, no,
because this interaction is beautiful,
and it would have sold it because what they're doing here in a good sense of the word, right? They're trying to subvert what you normally think about the 616 and Ultimate, right? Like that's the point, and they're doing it right by they're not just saying, oh, Peter's a loser now. They're showing them in different scenarios. You know, he has kids, whatever. And I don't even dang it, I think I lost my train of thought. But no, yes, Felicia and Richard good. Totally lost my train of thought there. But the one thing I will add before we move on to the rest of the book is shipping. I know that is such an ugly word in our spheres, because when we think of shippers, we think of the crazy people who go out and go, why isn't Peter Parker with the Human Torch? I'm going to burn down Marvel offices. And that's true. And we should all, like, I'm not saying don't think of them, but I also think, to what you said, like, there are lots of characters, at least, on my end, where I go, I want to see them together because they're in the story. I know you're like, you like Rogue and Gambit. We like Spider-Man and MJ. Like, we do technically ship them, but we're not going to death threat anybody or like, we're not that. So
we're not retarded and perpetually online,
We have other things going on.
Yeah.
But that is the
now let's get to the like actual crazy
dude.
part of the book.
So this like we recapped, Peter and Harry in the Savage Land being hunted by Kraven. There's not a lot for us to recap per se to you guys right here. What we get is a lot of good character growth between the two, a lot of Harry starts losing sort of faith in himself, and so he tells Pete, like, go on without him. But Pete is like his friend and goes like, I know you don't even want that. Like, we're getting out of here. So it's really a team building exercise, if you will.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah. And so they're just that is the bulk of their interaction here. They're just trying to get out of Savage Land, running from Kraven. There was a moment here where I almost went, oh, this is actually bad writing, because I was like, why is Kraven missing? But then I was like, he's not Bullseye. Like, he doesn't have perfect aim. He's just a good hunter. So, like, good aim. Like, he got close to them. He hit the raptor, but it makes sense why he would miss. And I was like, thankfully, I took 1 second to think before I reacted on social media.
Yeah.
But, I totally forgot about this. We finally get the first instance of Peter's spider sense, where he kind of taunts Kraven, says, shoot at me. As soon as the bullets come, he jumps, goes over to explain it to Harry, kind of like, I don't know what that is, but I can sense it. I know what's going on. Yeah. So they keep running. They run into the Mole Man, who, if you guys remember, is sort of he is the sixth member of the Sinister Six crime gang, which is what it is in the Ultimate Universe. He offers Harry and Peter shelter, sort of takes them in and says, I'll get you out of here. For reasons
that we don't yet know.
We do not know yet, but he clearly does not like the fact that Kraven is doing this. He does not like that his territory is being encroached on. We also learned that Kraven is going bonkers and just killing all of the Moloids, even the ones that are conscious, which I'm sure he's not happy about that one. That's actually pretty sad too. When we get to the Moloid, it's a kid. And it's crying, and it's like, oh man. So
because we see a bunch of dead ones around him.
Yep, and he's just weeping and saying right here. He's just he came for me, he came for us, and he's weeping, and it really even right now I'm getting a little bit of goosebumps, because it's just so emotional and heightened, and you're nothing is going to go right for you guys there, even when they get their little betrayal help from Mole Man, it's not really going their way, and it kind of doesn't go their way. So Kraven really catches up to them, I actually laughed at this one where he just starts unloading on the jungle with a chain gun. This is not the Kraven we know. This is an unhinged Kraven, because Kraven we know is calculated. He'll set your traps, he'll wait for you. Not this one. He's gonna fish with dynamite. That's essentially what this Kraven does.
Yeah.
So we get this little confrontation between Peter and Kraven. Harry and Peter have set up some traps in the surrounding area. They lead him into it. They end up blowing him out, put him on the back leg. Peter unleashes on Kraven, because the entire time, and this really got to me, the entire time Peter is finally realizing what is happening. He finally realizes Kraven knows who MJ and the kids are. He knew that, and he knew that they were in trouble, but this is when it's starting to sink in. And so Peter goes, not freaking today. And he just,
we're not doing this.
It literally gets to the point, he almost kills him. And
he does.
I kind of thought he would, though.
We have that Peter moment where
no, I'm not.
He realizes, no, I'm not. This isn't who I am. That's not what I do. Even this early in his career, right?
He's
he's already determined, and he's also, you got to remember, this is a much older and experienced in the world.
That's what I was gonna say. He's a less idealistic Peter. Right? That's exactly what I was gonna get to. Yeah.
He still says, no, I'm not gonna cross that line.
And
I think that's an incredibly important and defining moment, and defining with even more consequence than we would see with teen Peter, because this is an adult. This is somebody who knows what the world looks like. This is somebody who understands that the world is actually really ugly.
And you take that and the current situation, right? Harry is objectively right. Harry keeps yelling at him if we don't put down Kraven, what are we doing? He will find us. And Pete, even in the face of that, for better or worse, is himself and says, no, we won't do it.
And you can call that both a strength of character as well as a character flaw simultaneously.
Which is Spidey to a T. And I wanted to point this out. He even holds back after Kraven flashes this smirk of Harry's right. You need to put me down.
Well, he not just holds back, but you can see his fist starting to come undone in that panel.
Chichetto, look at just everything. The tension goes. It's so... This man is so good at art. But then we, in classic Craven fashion, he's down, but he's not out. He decides, I'm going to take a shot. Boom.
Yep.
Bullet goes through, hits Peter right in the abdomen. Now, I feel like, I don't know about you, I kind of had the same reaction Pete did, right? Why didn't his spider sense go off?
Yeah.
But then I had the realization before I turned the page. I went, oh, I know why.
I did too. Yeah.
So Peter gets hit by the bullet.
I did too, and it was because, and this was, so this is the one, I have only one critique of this issue.
Yeah.
And it's that I had that same read of it that you did, that Peter wasn't the actual target. However, the issue is the wound that we see on Peter is not consistent with that target, because in that first panel in the prior page, it looks like if he's going to be hitting Harry, he's going to be shooting through Peter's upper arm, but the wound that we see is in his abdomen, his lower abdomen.
And
right?
I
and
think,
so that is,
I think if he lowered, if Craven was like on the ground and like barely like lifting his pistol up, that shot works.
And
but
this,
we
this
see him
honestly
sitting
might
up
be a
and he's
matter.
like, and yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say this I think is a matter of perspective, and it's not
Possibly.
like Chichetto doesn't understand.
No.
This just might look, guys. Here's the thing about comic books, especially when you're putting out comic books on a not weekly, but like monthly basis, right? Like sometimes even the best artists are gonna make a mistake.
Yeah,
it happens. This is a mistake of perspective, because all you would have had to do is you could shrink that panel that has just Peter's face,
like his reaction.
Up.
Yeah,
You could shrink that, widen panel 1, and thereby you could shift Craven's gun hand over
Slightly
more
lower,
to the right.
yeah.
And then angle it down just a teeny bit.
I think you're completely right.
So that it looks like it's actually going through Peter's
that
abdomen
angle,
and hitting.
The angle of the
we'll
gun and the hand works. It's just it's too high. But if you literally just like Photoshop down 20 pixels or whatever, boom, perfect hit. But I agree with you there.
Yeah.
Let me also ask you this, because you're my other spider guy. I kind of feel like his spider sense should have still gone off, because he's still technically in danger. Like the bullet is still coming for him. It's still being aimed at him.
This was a moment where I was like, I see what you were going for, Hickman.
Yeah.
But that's not how his spider sense works. Like,
and maybe we'll chalk it up
he is
to...
actually, it doesn't operate. Look, this isn't.
Right. Yes.
This isn't
correct.
an unforgivable curse from Harry Potter where they operate literally off of intent. In order for the Cruciatus curse to work and actually inflict unimaginable pain on a target, you have to have intent to unimaginably harm that target. Same thing with Vada Kedavra. You have to literally have the desire to end that life that you are targeting and casting the spell on. That's not how the spider sense works. If Peter is in any way, shape, or form in danger, with extremely few exceptions, like the symbiotes.
The symbiote is basically it.
That's pretty much it. Outside of that, if his body is in any threat of harm, the spider sense is going to go off. That's how it works. And so this was I don't think this was a lazy moment for Hickman. I don't think this was a bad writing moment for Hickman. I think this was a moment where he was just trying to like really fake the reader out and expecting like the goodwill built up with how incredibly good this issue is up to this point, and still is afterwards. I think it was him banking on people just being like, "What's going to happen?" Right?
Like going along for the ride, like just being caught up in it.
I think if you're just, I'm getting a little bit of an echo right now. I think if you're like just hammering your way through the issue and like turning the page, what's next, which is not hard to do.
No, just like getting caught up in the moment. Yeah, I just saw that. I don't know why that's happening, but I think you're good now.
Check.
Yep, you're good.
Okay. Yeah, like unless you're just hamming your way through the issue, which is not hard to do because the issue is really good. Like you can take a second to pause and think about how spider sense works, and you're like, oh wait, that doesn't actually bear out that way.
Like, yeah,
but,
no, that
like I'll forgive it.
Oh yeah.
But
no, yeah, I can forgive it too.
I know what you were going for, and I can appreciate it, but like that was a goof up moment.
And you know what? I am admittedly willing to see if he mentions it like in another issue, because there was something like last week we saw, remember, where I was like, yeah, they didn't talk about the Venom thing. Remember where they were like, oh, it's not Luke Cage, and you and I went like, what? That doesn't make any sense. And then they opened Venom with, yeah, you would have not, like, you're shorter. That's why it went through. And we went, oh, they actually remembered it. Okay, so maybe there's something. And given that it's Hickman, I would believe whatever explanation he wants to give would work. But yeah, that was my moment too. I was like, I don't think that works, but I'm gonna let it go. But I don't think that works. I'm gonna have to ask Andrew later.
Yeah, no, it doesn't work that way. But I'll forgive it because of just how good the issue was and how good the series has been thus far. It doesn't mean it's not a mistake. It's still a mistake, but it hasn't ruined my enjoyment. It's just one of those things where in retrospect, or, you know, upon actually pausing, you're like, oh, yeah, that doesn't actually work that way.
Yeah, you go, wait a second. It's exactly what you said. It's if you're going through the issue and you're just sort of caught up in the story, you won't notice. But if you're a dork like us who knows Spider-Man to a T, we're going to go, what was that? Yeah, guys, quick note. You were hearing an echo for a second there. I had to switch up all of my audio stuff. My headset actually died because I didn't charge it before the show. So I had to put Andrew on the actual speaker. I didn't have it on. It was this whole thing, but we're cool now. We'll be good for the rest of the show. No echoes. My bad.
All right. Yep, no more echo. Echo is gone.
Echo's coming back for Secret Wars, but no.
Oh, no, I don't hear that. All right,
yeah,
well, let's get to the finale of this issue and what's really crazy.
I know.
Before we wrap.
Yes, so as we teased a second ago, Harry is actually dead. Completely.
I actually had to double take on this panel because I knew, like, before turning the page, he actually was targeting Harry, wasn't he? And
yeah, no, exactly.
Craven, he's a smart hunter. He knows that Peter can dodge things, right? And so
he's learning during the hunt. Yeah.
Yeah, he was targeting Harry, and so I was looking all over the panel. I was like, "Oh my god, that bullet's in his forehead. He's dead. He's actually dead." Like, because there was a brief moment where I was like, "Okay, so Harry got lit up, and it's gonna be, you know, touch and go." No, he's dead.
But they're gonna get out of there. But no, when Craven said I wasn't aiming for you, I was like, oh, he just blasted Harry through like the gut or the chest,
right?
And then we turn and
no, it's the head. There's not really much give. There's really, like, you hear freak stories of people surviving,
like yeah, it like bounces around your skull and like goes out a different hole or whatever.
Right, and those are freak 1 in a billion instances where those happen, and
Harry's already had enough luck in his life with a hot wife and a rich upbringing. Like,
I don't think that's what we're gonna get here. I think he's gone, Jim. Like, I think he's
oh
dead.
No, I definitely think he's gone, because like, so when I turn the page, we get Mysterio, who, if you guys remember, was hanging around, was taunting Craven and the Mole Man. I genuinely thought here that I was like, oh, we're going to see Peter run from, like, right now, because he does. Mysterio basically says, like, get out of here. Like, I don't have any interest in you. Just like leave if you want to, and maybe we'll fight later. But I have nothing to do with you. Peter takes off. He starts running to the exit. I thought the next page after this, like, I turn it, and right here we would see Mysterio like snapping up a bunch of like dust, right, like his green gas, and going, gotcha. And maybe he like captured Harry, or my weird fringe theory that Gwen is Mysterio, and maybe that was going to be the reveal. But we turn, and maybe something like that happens, but I'm not feeling it. That feels like Harry's gone.
I think Harry's gone, and I think what we're going to have is what I messaged you earlier, where Ultimate Universe Green Goblin is going to end up being Gwen, and instead of
100%,
instead of Harry hating Peter due to Norman's death, it's going to be Gwen hating Peter.
Gwen hating Peter because of Harry's death.
Because of Harry's death.
And MJ. I didn't even think, because they're way more connected, like in both lives in this universe right now.
Correct. And she already knows about the whole family.
She knows about MJ and the kids. That could be the tagline for like the ultimate Spider-Man movie, and you would have everybody already on the edge of their seat like the second they sat down.
Like,
because
in some ways, this is even scarier.
This, I was just about to say that.
Because we've already
seen
this universe's Gwen to be like,
she's scary. Like, she is like, so smart and so conniving. I don't know if conniving's the right word, but like,
I'm trying to think of what the word is. She's very oh gosh, if Mary was here, she'd know the word that I'm
She's very Mary
now. It's she underhanded isn't the word. Like, she's
like cold and calculating. Like calculating might be the right word.
Calculating might be the closest thing. It's not the word that I'm thinking of, but that's closest.
Yeah, it's not the one I am either, but it works.
Reason, the word I'm actually looking for is completely escaping me right now. But yeah, like, this universe's Gwen is really smart. She's
the opposite of 616, right? Like, party girl, likes to have fun, and this one is I run Oscorp.
I think this could be an incredibly scary Green
Dude,
Goblin.
I just realized, like, so earlier we didn't really touch on it because it's just one of those incidental details, but Harry mentions, like, I know you're worried about the kids, but I have like protection. There's a protocol that if either Gwen or I go missing, we get protection because like, and Otto's the one who provides it. And then he says, like, you could have had it because we offered, but you didn't want to tell Otto your identity because understandably you don't trust him. There's your,
because Otto is sus as hell.
It's Otto. And so we already know Gwen knows about like the suit and the tech and everything. So I think it's not a far leap for her to go. She's basically going to turn into Norman from the first movie, right? Like, we can't go back to formula. Like, I need this now.
Yeah.
But even before we ever get there, we have to deal with this scene. And I don't know about you, man, but this is
cunning.
Like,
is the word I was thinking.
Cunning. Yes, that is. Yes, Gwen is cunning. Perfect. Chuck was close. Chuck was close with diabolical.
Yeah. Ultimate Universe Gwen is Slytherin as hell. So,
she's basically female Malfoy. No, that's no, because Malfoy's a little bit more of a exactly. That's what a nepotism baby is what I was gonna get to. Like, that's what Malfoy is. Like, do you know who my dad is? And Gwen is like, you don't ever get to know who my dad is because you're dealing with me.
Yeah, like, this issue was so wild. This book continues to be book of the week every single time one drops. For good reason.
Every single moment.
I like this to close things out.
Yeah.
I loved this final scene with Peter and MJ because there's that moment where, like, MJ was just already in a state of panic from missing Peter because Peter and Harry had been missing.
Yeah.
Right? They'd been missing. They were gone. They had MJ had
the nano suit is playing pretend with MJ right now so that they can like keep up appearances.
Yeah, exactly. And she has that moment where Peter comes through the window and she's just so thankful that he's home. And then, like, she realizes her hand is touching a bunch of blood, right? And then she starts to freak out. And then that immediately made me think back to the issue where
Yep. Like, our favorite moment.
Like, tell me when I can be scared, right?
Or she says, like, when can I freak out? And Peter goes, I will tell you. And
this is that moment. Like, Hickman was building to this moment. And
he actually did it.
Like, what are we going to do? And Peter says, we need to run.
We run.
And now I'm like, where are they going to go? What are they going to do?
Where are they going to go? What are they going to do with, like, Richard? Right? Like, he's Spider-Man right now. Are they going to tell Pete? Is he going to... There's so much that could happen right now.
There are so many different moving parts right now going on in the story because, right now, Richard has been, like, pretending to be Spider-Man while Peter was missing. And as far as we know, it's only Craven that knew the true identities of Harry and Peter.
Mysterio
and
does
then
now.
Mole Man. And then Mole Man
no,
as well.
Mysterio does too.
Yeah, Mysterio, yeah.
Because that's what he says at the end, like, get out of here, Peter
Mysterio.
Parker.
And so
it's just
like,
those three.
So it's only those people. Like, are they going to leverage that information? What's going on right now? Like,
but it also makes me think, like,
I have no
you know,
idea what's going to happen.
The easy prediction would be, oh, they'll go tell the rest of the Sinister Six and we'll get our big fight. But as we've seen, they don't all get along. Like, they genuinely don't. They're only
most of them don't actually like each other.
They don't like each other, or they're literally only together in a unit because the Kingpin says, if you don't, I will kill you. And they go, all right, cool. So, like, there's so much different intrigue and personal politics that can play out. And I mean, when I say intrapersonal politics, I mean, like, do we tell them, do we not like, do I vote blue or not that kind of thing.
Not that type of politics. Like, but, interpersonal, social politics. So,
and then combine, there's just, I genuinely don't know where we're going, and I love it.
Yeah. It's keeping me on my toes. Like, I have no idea what's going to happen next. If you had told me that Harry was going to die in this issue, I would have said no. They're not going to kill him already.
I was genuinely shocked because I think it's either the most recent solicit they put out or like one before, but there's an issue coming up where the cover is the Green Goblin helmet like cracked open and you can see like Norman's reflection in the metal, and I was like, oh, there's our Harry break moment. But now that there's no Harry break, what are we gonna do? And then
Gwen's gonna put on the suit, and Norman and Norman's like residual personality and psyche that's stored inside that is gonna seep into her.
Oh,
and well, she's gonna be scary as piss.
It's gonna start. I don't think like, and I don't think this is what you were saying. I'm just sort of jumping off of it. Like, I don't think it'll play out in the sense that she puts on the suit and the like AI starts overriding her mind, right? I don't think it's that. I think as soon as she puts it on and the Norman AI goes like, what's going on? And she says, Harry's dead, I'm going to do this. That AI is going to start manipulating the hell out of her and just start pushing all of the right buttons to push her to do whatever
because it's Norman
thinks.
Yeah. I'm so amped for how this
and then I'm like super worried now because the teaser cover is freaking Spidey swinging with Mayday while Sandman tries to get them. We can't do that to Mayday. She's our Sparky.
I have credit and kudos to Jonathan Hickman for doing just a phenomenal job handling the Spider-Man family. And by Spider-Man family, I mean Peter Parker, Mary Jane Watson Parker, Mayday Parker, and Richard Parker. Not any of the
and
other
Silk
ones.
And Miles and Ben
I'm gonna
Miguel
freaking hit you.
and Web Weaver and whatever.
Oh God! Why?
Spider-Verse versus Venomverse #1 on sale in a month. Everybody go pre-order.
Shoot myself in the face. The only other thing I have to look forward to, Spidey-wise, is it? It's not next week. I think it's the week after where we get all new Venom. #5.
Yeah, that'll be the week.
We get the reveal of who's actually under the suit, so that'll be cool. That'll be a hell of an episode, guys. Provided an act of God doesn't happen that prevents us from doing the show.
I woke up the last time I fell asleep. I woke up and I woke up coughing just because my throat was dry, but I had that momentary we are not missing another episode. We are not doing this.
I know. Yeah.
Also, everybody, this is Andrew's face when he learns that Tom King is writing something. I just want everybody to put that into their memory banks.
That's not inaccurate.
Heroes in crisis. Hey, Jon Stewart, racism. Everything is racism. Isn't that great?
I really hate that man.
That man needs to go away. But fortunately, guys, you don't have to suffer through that because A, I know none of you are reading Tom King, and B, we aren't either. Not happening ever.
Thank God. We're reading good books, and there are a couple of books that we're like, okay,
we'll be ditching Flash this week, so it's going to get a little bit better.
Yeah.
But yes, like Andrew was saying, guys, we have already in a good way, we've run over. We had a lot of fun. We were hanging out with you guys, catching up on the week. We've both been really busy. So thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us tonight. It's always a pleasure, always a joy. Like Andrew said, come back next week or 2 weeks, 1 week, whatever, whenever Venom's out. Should be a blast of a show. If that's
Might
2
be
weeks from
cool.
now, come back anyway. Will always be fun hanging out with us. As always, I'll give Andrew and myself a moment to let you know what we've got going on, starting with the handsome gentleman over here while I go pull up everything that they have going on at the RIPPAVERSE.
Well, right now, guys, we are in the, let's see, tomorrow is going to be the final day for The Great War of Separation, which is written by Chuck Dixon and illustrated by Jack Herbert. It is a beautiful, beautiful book, and the story is fantastic. It's Chuck Dixon. I mean, what else do you want? What else do you need?
Well, yeah,
This
what else
is
do you
an-
need?
This is an incredibly important event that sets up the present day state of the Rippaverses. This is an event you do not want to miss. It's a limited series. I'm not going to say exactly how many parts there are going to be to it because that's not public information yet. And I am ND Andrew, but you do want to pre-order this because this book is fantastic. Rippazine number 3 is still live for pre-order as well. The short story, 16 pages that is in that issue of the zine, is written by our very own Caro Brown. It is a space sci-fi fiction fantasy. I wouldn't say epic. I would say like adventure and antics. If you
Adventure works, yeah.
if you like Firefly, if you like Cowboy Bebop, if you like Guardians of the Galaxy when they were good, like this is the story for you. Absolutely check it out. It is a
When
ton
they
of
were
fun.
good.
Evan Scales' art is absolutely complimentary to the characters and to the story written. Check it out. It's a ton of fun. The Spingy on the Job t-shirt is a throwback to a very famous
Yep.
McFarlane cover. And Kanan White did a great job with that, as Kanan White tends to do. ISOM 3, the finale to the Ill-Advised arc, is live right now. That is the big one. Check it out. Eric knocked it out of the park. Cliff Richards' best work.
Look who it is!
Bloodruth makes an appearance in the book, guys. Sydney's great in it as well. Check it all out. We appreciate everybody that supports the Rippaverse and supports indie comics, whether it's us or whether it's somebody else out there that's putting out work you enjoy. Supporting independent creators is important. Support the people that are putting out work that you actually enjoy and that you look forward to. I think that's very important. It doesn't necessarily have to be us. We hope that it's us at some point, whether it's ISOM, Alpha Core, Yaira, Bloodruth, whatever, Horseman, or something else that's yet to be announced. Just make sure you're supporting the creators that are putting out work you enjoy.
But you guys, you'll want to be on board before we get to all the other announcements, so you can say, "Oh, I saw that character's appearance already," right? And so when somebody gets into it, you'd be like, "Godspeed, good luck. I already know more about this."
Absolutely, absolutely.
You can
guys,
have your own foil variant about the Rippaverse.
Absolutely. Aside from that, guys, Saturdays in the evenings, you can catch me over on Mary's channel where we do Hypothetically Speaking, where we sort various characters from other pantheons into their Hogwarts houses.
And normally the stream goes straight. There's not normally a hiccup.
Last week we had a ton of technical difficulties for some reason. That like never happens on Mary's channel.
I know. It was really weird.
Mary has been streaming for a long time. She knows what she's doing. It was just a ton of tech stuff deciding, nope, you're not doing this tonight. And it was super annoying, but we will be back this week. You can catch me on my Twitch and YouTube and X, Caffeinated Wolf, streaming solo games on Saturday afternoons and my community streams on Sunday evenings. This Saturday afternoon, I'm tempted to stream the new Monster Hunter because I am a longtime Monster Hunter fan. The new one is going live, like to actually play. I think like midnight tonight.
I was gonna say like in 2 hours.
Yeah, unfortunately, like I've got so much work to do tomorrow that I'm not gonna be able to like justify staying up late to play it. So I'm gonna have to wait. It's called being an adult, and it sucks. But I'm gonna have to wait before I can actually play that. But guys, check that out. I appreciate everybody who's been hanging out with us tonight. We went a little long. We went longer than we intended. We're trying to get it somewhere between that 2.5 hour mark because it's nice and tight and people stick around for that because everybody's got other things that they're doing out there in the chat. But we appreciate you guys. Guys, if you're not reading Ultimate Spider-Man, what do you do?
Correct that.
Fix it. Fix that now. Mav, what you got going on?
Awesome. Yeah.
Take us out.
As always, guys, you can catch all of the links to everything from the Rippaverse down below. There is also a new episode of Control Z coming out with Andrew. It'll be episode number 5. Tomorrow or the next day?
Yeah, it'll be tomorrow. We're dropping it around, I think, like 11 a.m. Central.
Perfect. Yeah, no, I remember seeing it, and I just didn't lock in the time. But yes, new Control Z. Go check out what all the creatives out in the Rippaverse are up to, their insights. It's always a good time. Pre-order everything. Follow Andrew on everything. I'll see you guys tomorrow over in his Twitch chat for Monster Hunter if he does that.
No, tomorrow's your stream, dude. Good man.
I know. Oh, you're right. I'm completely messed up. We went 30 minutes over, and now my entire schedule is completely blown
And now
up.
you don't know what day it is. Guys, this is how easy it is to throw off people who do nothing but work 24/7.
It really, dude, I still to this day have to go to our Discords, like the Foil or the Kabuto Studios one and then the Wolf one, because I don't remember what time we go live. And that's the only place it's like recorded. So I'm like, is it 6 or 5? I definitely got to double check this.
I feel that.
But yeah, guys, aside from that, boundingintocomics.com, we got new stories coming up every day. You can hang out with me tomorrow if you want some more live entertainment on a Friday night for Good Mav Ugly. Who knows what we're going to talk about? There's a lot going on this week, but it'll be a blast. And like I said, see you guys in all of the Twitch chats. You know, I'll just be harassing Andrew wherever he goes around the internet, so you can catch me there. And yeah, I think that's really all I have for this week.
All right, guys, you are the best. We appreciate you. Thank you for tuning in for intellectually honest comic book talk. You're not going to find it in very many places these days on the internet, no matter what side of the aisle you sit on.
For real.
It just doesn't tend to happen frequently. So thank you for hanging out with us. Be sure to check out Mary's stream on Saturday night. Be sure to check out Good Mav Ugly tomorrow night. And until next time, guys, God bless.
Pre-order Item 3.
And
Never before have we had greater face a complex, rapidly changing world. Think of it a moment.
It is a world in which supersonic speeds are commonplace. It is a world that has seen the coming of the atomic bomb. It has seen the rise of the total state, the dictator, and the mass man. It is a world of new sensations, new excitements, new distractions.
So much to be learned by so many in so little time.
And I suppose you're here with no agenda, as per usual?
On the contrary, I'm here for comics.
How's your comic book collection, Brody?
Oh, it's going good, but I've been...